Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 10th council meeting. Committee of Adjustment and the public meeting will be addressed starting at 7 p.m. Members of the public have been provided with the following methods to watch and or participate in this open meeting this evening. Attend the township office located at 2958 Greenfield Road. 2. Watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the township's YouTube page. 3. Attend electronically to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. To attend electronically, members of the public will be requested to register with the Clerk's Division in advance. And finally, submit written comments to the Clerk's Division that will be provided to the mayor and council prior to the meeting and form part of the public record. And I call the meeting now to order. Please examine the agenda.
Moved by myself and by Council Tilly that council adopt the July 10th, 2023 council meeting agenda as presented in the following addendum. 1, add 13 pieces of correspondence received for heading 7.1, report number CLK 14-2023, new kennel license application for 3936-3942 Old Beverly Road. 2, add 3 pieces of correspondence received for item 10.1.2A, report PD 30-2023, discussion on intrusion control bylaw and agri operations. 3, add item 10.1.2B. Report number PD 29-2023, discussion paper draft provincial plan statement 2023. And 4, amend the proposed bylaw included item 10.1.4B, report number bylaw 07-2023, follow report proposed noise bylaw and item 17 bylaw number 3421-23 being a bylaw to prohibit and regulate noise in the township of Montgomery and repeal bylaw number 2609-14 to amend item 9 in schedule A, remove item 11 in schedule A.
All in favor? That's me. Thank you. Now I'd like to do the Indigenous acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in Canada. And what's happened over the last few years since brought to light the bodies of the children lost is that we've begun to realize and work with our Indigenous partners and understand that they are good and gentle stewards of the land. And they believe in people and in making things right and better. And they can take us a long way as we go forward in this journey together. So I'd like to pause for a minute as we reflect on our relationship. Thank you very much. And you're welcome to come in, sir. Is there any disclosure between your interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Committee of Adjustment, is very patients. And I have the motion to adjourn and meet as committee of all, please.
Moved by myself, second by Council Williams, that Council said, Jennifer Durant said the committee is involved.
All those in favor? Yeah, thank you. So in the committee of the whole, we have the finance functions. Does any member of council wish to speak on the agenda item, finance function? Report number 10/16/2023 financial update. Council Rowan, as you might just find, as you want to speak. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And So any member of the public that wishes to speak on the financial statement? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
Move on myself, second by Council Roll, and the committee of the whole recommend the following items be approved as presented as outlined staff reports listed in the finance funds bureau. 10.1.1 main report number FIN-16 2023, financial update to June 30th, 2023. On that FIN report 16-2023 be received.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next up is the development services. Okay, is any member of council that wishes to speak to any of the items? We are at 10.1.2. A and B. One is the first is the income control bylaw. There is a list of people in the public that will be speaking to that. The second report is the discussion of people draft provincial planning statement. Please, let's start. So, Council Rowland, can you do 10.1.2, the discussion of people draft provincial planning statement?
Can I ask that the councillor speak directly into the microphones? I'm having trouble hearing some.
Thank you.
That
We will.
would be very impactful for me.
Moved by myself, and by Council Wilms, that the committee of the whole recommend the following item be approved as presented, as outlined in the staff reports listed in the development services function area. 10.1.2B, report number PD 29-2023, discussion paper, draft provincial planning statement 2023. One, that P report 29-2023 be received. Two, that staff be directed to submit the matters outlined in attachment number 2 to the report as township council's comments on the draft provincial planning statement 2023 through to the province for the review and consideration. And 3, that a copy of the report, including attachment number 2, be circulated to Brian Riddell, MPP, Cambridge, for his review and consideration.
And if anybody has not read it, it is an excellent review. And I thank you, Steve, for doing it so well done. All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Now, we will now revert back to discussion on the nutrient control bylaw. Now, we've missed this question. At 7 o'clock, we have to switch back over to council, so, and then we'll come back to this later. First up, I have Susan Lloyd Swan. Welcome, Susan. Okay, there it is.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Susan Lloyd Swale. I'm a former municipal councillor myself back in 2000. I have a master's degree in urban planning, and I'm here tonight as a consultant for the Reformed Gravel Mining Coalition. Oh. So, as you know, there is no need for new pits and quarries in Ontario. Each year, Ontario authorizes the aggregate industry to extract 13 times more gravel than is required to meet the average annual consumption. There are already enough licensed pits and quarries to meet Ontario's need for aggregate for more than a decade. As one of the top aggregate producing municipalities, you understand this issue well. Oh, wrong way. So, we want you to take the high road. We urge you to deal with the issues, and by adopting an ICBL, Ontario must regulate aggregate just like every other renewable resource, from cod to natural gas, non-renewable resource, from cod to natural gas based on a rational analysis of supply and demand. In the meantime, councillors can pass an ICBL and entry control bylaw to press pause on new gravel mining approvals and improve outdated and unsafe bylaws. We urge you to protect your community while letting the province know we need them to do more. So why consider an interim control bylaw? You have the jurisdiction to implement an interim control bylaw under the Planning Act, and you are not alone in using this important tool. Town of Caledon successfully implemented an ICBL, and their legal counsel, a well-known lawyer, Chris Barnett, was supportive of them doing so. ICBLs provide breathing space, allowing a municipality to study an issue, to adopt appropriate new planning policies and bylaws to protect public health and safety. It's important to understand the issues residents are bringing forward to you. Off-site noise, dust, vibrations, fly rot, cumulative impacts can be dealt with through municipal bylaws. While the Aggregate Resources Act generally manages on-site operational impacts. So there have been changes to ICBLs, as you know, under Bill 97. That is now law, as was in your staff report. So the windows for OLT appeals on ICBLs has shortened, but really nothing has changed. Bill 97 did not interfere with the municipality's rights. The need for ICBLs has not changed under Bill 97. Neither has the law, with the exception that new ICBLs can be appealed immediately. The threshold for appeal is very high. Essentially, that the purpose of the ICBL was not legitimate, it could not be enforced, and that the municipality was dragging its feet. An ICBL remains an effective tool to address the need to update bylaws and policies to protect public health and safety. And there is case law. For this ICBL appeal, I'm not going to read the whole slide. You can refer to that case law. For this ICBL appeal, the board considered whether the purpose of the statute in the bylaw has been fulfilled. That purpose pertained to the assembly of information, and the board makes no comments on its context. So it's whether or not the purpose you brought the ICBL forward was implemented according to the law. Your municipality has the authority to adopt an ICBL. It's a useful tool for updating and adopting new municipal bylaws and official plan policies. We urge you to do so in good faith to ensure your bylaws and policies are robust enough to protect the health and safety of members of your community. You may want to consider using Caledon's ICBL as a model due to its success. That's it for me. As said, we encourage you to take the high road. We have a municipal action plan that's available on our website, reformgravelminingcoalition.ca. I encourage you to go there and you'll find all kinds of information on what we do and how we work with you.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions, councillors? Seeing none, next we have Ms. Janet Hessling. Christine. 51 or 7 ministries.
Mayor Boston, councilors, staff, yes, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. I have a short presentation. There's a few slides that are maybe a little bit difficult to see, Like that is North Dumfries in 2010. Maybe you can see some bits on there, maybe not, there are some. But I'll just start my reading. This is a satellite image of North Dumfries 2010, not that long ago. You can see aggregate extraction in various areas, but not to the extent that it is happening today. No. Okay. These are the properties that are currently zoned aggregate in North Dumfries, all the yellow spots on there and red dots. This includes unrehabilitated pits, active working pits, and properties not yet extracted. It doesn't include the 6 properties that are in the application or pre-application stages. As you can see, we have rapid, uncontrolled expansion. This image is from Waterloo Region's official plan. The aggregate resource area is the brown section. The north border is New Dundee Road. The west is Trustler Road. The south is Brant Waterloo Road. And you can see Grand River as a point of reference toward the east. Almost all of North Dumfries is an aggregate resource area. At some point in time, every piece of land that has top quality sand or gravel and passes the minimum legal parameters will have its aggregate extracted. That is our reality. Our extraction journey has already begun, and it is fast and furious. The ICBL is our pit stop. We need it. We're not in the driver's seat and probably never will be, but we need to call shotgun and be an active partner in the navigation. We need in-depth studies and planning without the distractions of more pit applications, more upset constituents, more threats of the Ontario Land Tribunal. The current scope of study for aggregate extraction is 120 meters around a potential pit site. That may be good enough for a small pit here and there, but that is not even close to being good enough in our situation, where the majority of our township's land is an aggregate resource area. We need intense, detailed studies based on the scenario that all aggregate in North Dumfries will at some time be extracted. How will this affect our water, the groundwater, the well water, the streams, the rivers, the lakes, not only ours, but also everyone down the watershed? How will it affect all the living beings and plants that are in and around the water? What will agriculture look like in this scenario? Will crops perform well on pit floors? Will farm practices of nutrient management, pesticides, and weed sprays be safe to use when the gravel and sand filters have been removed and the distance to the water table is minimal? Do rehabilitation plans need a broader scope? Then let's turn everything back into agriculture. What are the desired aesthetics related to rehabilitation? Can some short-term profits be sacrificed to ensure that our township can be a beautiful place to live and allow us to enjoy our surroundings? Can the berms along the roads be replaced with the depth of trees and green space? Can this be started even before extraction starts? When the studies are complete and show potential adverse effects, intense planning needs to take place. Do some areas need to be protected more than the current standards of protection? We have a special situation in North Dumfries. Our parameters need to be unique to us. Aggregate companies are businesses which are driven by near-term profits, and rightly so for their shareholders. However, a long-term approach needs to be taken, which includes the rest of the stakeholders who will be left with the results of actions taken today. We need to become proactive with the objective of making a difference for generations to come, rather than reactive due to the assumption we cannot make a difference. We need to work with our governments to do our best to modify the direction that we are currently headed, rather than have it mapped out for us through land tribunals, etc. The ICBL is a gift for our township. It provides time for planning and preparation. Make the choice to accept this gift and use it wisely. We must not squander this opportunity. There will be a lot of work and some expenses involved, but it cannot wait.
Janet, your time is up. Finish up.
Okay. The timing of current aggregate projects is based solely on financial parameters. We need to broaden the parameters as well as ensure that all proper procedures and studies are completed, such as expansions versus new pits. Now is the time for an ICDL pit crew to get to work. Teamwork during the short time available is crucial. Our encouragement, one more left. Our encouragement to council is to be the leaders they were elected for in this effort to benefit all constituents for generations to come. We have no choice. North Dumfries will be living with aggregate extraction for many more years. Let's make aggregate sustainable with very little impact on health of ecosystems.
All right, we have the North Countries Conservation Alliance. That's coming up next.
Let's be the township that other townships can turn to for advice when they face similar situations.
So hi, everyone. My name is Mary Ann Young, and I'm representing the North Dumfries Conservation Alliance. Once again. Okay, yes, okay. Still back. This one back. Oh, I see. Okay, I'll start. So again, we're here once again, asking our council to initiate the interim control bylaw. It's simple and necessary. So as you heard before, it really is a gift and something that we feel is very important. And what we're saying now is, you'll see that the map here looks very much like the one that was presented before, but you'll see the 5 new swatches on there. So these are some of the new applications that are out there. And the picture just gets worse. We're also saying gravel mining in Ontario now consumes an average of 5,000 acres of land per year. And North Dumfries is known to have the largest percentage of our valuable lands currently under extraction. So the new pending applications alone could represent 10% of those 5,000 acres. So it's been almost 2 years since we've asked for an ICDL. And since that time, one cannot say that nothing has changed. So although North Dumfries Township Council publicly endorsed and supported the province-wide call for moratorium on all new aggregate extraction applications, it seems you are not willing to take action or advantage of opportunities available to you. We're now facing 3 pit applications within this 1 year and 2 additional controversial applications, which are the Chutting Pit and Dance Pit, which are currently on appeal before the OLT group. So when we read the staff report, we felt the report represented some unrealistic figures. For example, the 200,000 to 300,000 cost per study seems overstated when comparing to Caledon, who recently budgeted approximately 50,000. And the 50,000 was also the approximate cost for Zora from the information that we have. We also feel that fear of the OLT appeal and costs are unfounded. There must be solid grounds to be appealed, and if township follows the process and are sincere in their intent in the study, we feel there will be no grounds. And finally, the staff report shares no positive outcomes of or reason to initiate the ICDL, such as the ability to review and update policies to guide a more proactive approach to future resource management. Gravel is a finite resource too, and like farmland, requires proper management. And the current practice of excessive and aggressive extraction is resulting in irreversible damage to our existing and identified as significant natural resources, together with the continued loss of our identified prime agricultural lands. This is not responsible management, nor is this sustainable. So if not an ICBL, then what? Your action is required now.
Thank you, Madison. Good morning. I'm working with the Mayor Caledon, and the reason they're going to the interim control bylaw is because they fought the issue 10 years ago a while. And so they know it's not going to cost them as much because they already have all the data reports. So that's why they're going. I also talked to the mayor of Sorrel, and he said I would have to weigh out my relationship with the ministry and the things that I'm trying to establish there, which are really positive right now, versus the bylaw, because the interim control bylaw was in. Ministry shuts me down. So and I have to weigh it up, but that's regardless of where we're going with this. But I just want to confirm those for you. And that's why it costs less to Caledon. They've already won this. I can't even believe somebody else would try and do the same thing that they already lost at previously. So, and that's, it's wonderful that Mayor, and she's doing a really good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Scott Booth, she's on line. Karen? Karen, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for hearing me tonight. I'm also, as you know, very concerned about the report that was brought forward to council with some information in the report that I found conflicting with information that I have found speaking with professionals. My concern is for the budgeted amounts, for the projections that, in my mind, in the research I've done, are unrealistic. And I'm also concerned that there are no positive comments in the report. Like what is the positive part of an ICBL? Why did we not hear about what it can do, what it will do, and how we can use it effectively to better manage our future in North Dumfries? Our concern, as you know, as constituents, as taxpayers, as residents, and longtime residents of the township, we are watching our township being eaten up and destroyed. And in the past 15 years, it has almost doubled in aggregate. And if that continues in the next 10 to 15 years, we will be totally unsustainable. How do we feed the people in our community? If COVID taught us nothing, it should have taught us about what's really important: food sustainability, food security, our quality of our air, quality of our water. These are the things that are all being threatened by what we are allowing to continue. And I understand there are concerns, and I understand council has a number of fears, it seems, but the greatest fear should not be paying for studies and trying to change the future of aggregate extraction. It should be the fear of what comes when we don't. So I am asking this council to stand and say, enough is enough right now. We need to assess where we are. We need to look at how we got to this crisis, and we need to look at all the available tools to get us moving forward for a more sustainable future. And your first option, the best tool I can offer you, is an ICBL to give us opportunity to undertake the study and to review what we can do and then start to implement that. I'm not saying that we don't continue to advocate with the provincial government. Of course we will. And we will do everything we can as a community to change the provincial oversight. But we have to start at the township level. And your first responsibility, in my mind, is to say no to any zone change amendment that will impact the community that your constituents live in. And the way that we can move forward is giving us time to do a proper time study, not rush through, we want to hire consultants that are experts who know what they're talking about and learn from others. So why are we not looking to expert opinion, people who do this for other municipalities, and let's move forward in a proactive, responsible way. Thank you.
Thank you, Community. Member Republic? Go ahead, Madam Clerk, and just tell us when you leave.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ann Fluid and I live right between the Alps and Greenfield Road. We're right on Sprague's Road at 1248. My concern for this gravel pit where they are proposing are the two roads coming out for the trucks. Because as far as I know, Greenfield is a no truck zone, Shoaldice is a no truck zone, and the Alps Road is a no truck zone. The corners by Alps Road and also by Greenfield Road are very dangerous. Last week, we had 2 accidents by our house. One was just round the corner, somebody broadside somebody, the truck landed in the field. So we go out there and we have to direct traffic and we have to stop people from going through because the road is blocked. It was an hour and a half that the road was blocked. And we're turning people around, always by our driveway. So yesterday, I was on my porch, I love to sit there, and for 5 minutes, I counted the cars. 37 vehicles going by in 5 minutes. People go through that road, it's supposed to be 80, they're going a lot faster than that. And they're coming around that corner, and we have accidents there all the time. They're either in the bush, or they hit the guardrails. You can check police reports, and that was 2 just within the last week. On the Alps Road, there's a gravel pit there, and apparently I think part of it has gone back to land, but the berms are still there. Why is that? You can't see anything coming out of Alps Road. You can't see hardly, you have to go right around the bend to get out of Alps Road. So why aren't they taken down? Next door, we have a business. And the cars are going in and out, in and out. And there has been so many close calls with traffic there. So that is my concern, is the safety. We also have deer that come across all the time. So just too many close calls. And if there's trucks going back and forth, either slow the traffic, I don't know what else to do. But that's where I live, right in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? And just give me a name, please.
Andrew Rose.
Hello, Mayor, Council, and staff. Last time I was here, I walked you through the overall situation from a personal stance of our property on Elks Road. Today, I'd like to talk about collusion between government and corporations. Okay, so I think it's getting to the point where we don't need to come here and breathe fire to you guys that can barely do anything to us. So it shouldn't be just exercise in, civil, I don't know what you would call it, unwinding. We should start to look at what we can do legally. And the government is in collusion with and that's the term, with these gravel corporations. They haven't enough manpower or money to police them. And so right there, they shouldn't be handing out any more or authorizing any more pits. So we need to start thinking more about how to drag them by hoof or heel into court and work that way, because they've created an untenable situation between us, the public, and these corporations that have a lot of money. They have large treasure chests to fight people in court. So we need to go after the government then, which can't really use our money to go after us back. So I think that's the way it's got to go. And council, is council at all, is anyone on council at all on any boards of the aggregate companies or receiving any money?
I was the
You're
chair
on.
of Tatton. I was on the Tatton.
Remember, I asked questions that I know the answer to already.
So Tatton, which is the top academic producer of styles in Ontario, I was the chair for 6 years.
Yes, you were. Okay, so any money,
No, not a dime.
not a dime. Any expenses,
No,
travel,
I'm not covered. They, no.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, because, this is looking out for you, because if we start to go this way, you know, you better be clear about any monies you've received, any gifts, any trucks, anything, we'll find it, okay? So that's the way it's gonna go, because I was here last time and everybody puts in their best, chat, but it's a waste of time. We have to go for the throne, and that's it. So, if anybody's interested in that, that's what we'll do. We'll hire an attorney and we'll sue the government and every official, large and small, that is involved in this fiasco.
And that's your right to do so. Please don't threaten the council. If you'd
I'm
like to
not
talk on the
threatening.
issue-
I'm
if you'd like to talk on the issue on the income control bylaw.
now you're sounding like you maybe did get a little something on that board.
Gentlemen, be careful before I charge you with slander.
Oh, well,
I can.
you
prove
just
that.
admitted you've been on
I
the
do
board.
not get a dime from Tackle.
We may need to see a financial record.
That would be just fine. You'll have to ask.
Because you work for the public,
That's
you
right.
can't do anything but work for us.
You understand what Tackle is?
Yes,
It's the municipalities fighting against aggregate.
right. But there's also other parts to that.
Gentlemen, please, let's get back to the income control bylaw. You can slander me all you want.
I'm not slandering. You're the one who
Yeah,
admitted
you
what.
just said I took money and I didn't. Let's
I
get back to
didn't say you took money. I said
Fine.
we will find out if anybody took
Let's do
money,
the
truck,
control bylaw.
travel expenses.
Let's do the income control.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so really?
So just.
So I've been-
Please just think.
Let me just finish then, okay?
You have 1 minute, I've seen.
Oh, 1 minute. So I hit a sore spot. I'm glad everybody was here to witness that. So there are often boards set up to alleviate stresses between the public and companies seemingly as working with the public. So there's lots of ways to skin this one. We know that, okay? So anyways, that's what the next step must be if the board does not act. There's 2 agents, field agents, policing all these pits. That right there demonstrates that there's collusion. So we need to step in here and we expect you not to argue or count the clock down, but to work with us. Okay, if there's no problem, there's no problem. If there's a problem, we'll find it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. See, on the committee, in regards to the berm that should be taken down, do they have to take them down? Ms. Fluid, is that one of the comments you made, right? About the berm not being taken down, was that you?
I said home birds.
Yes, and do they have to take them down?
So, Madam Mayor, the last phase on the north side of Alps Road at the Cambridge Aggregates pit has not been finished. So at a minimum, that berm would stay until that last phase of extraction is completed. In terms of the actual final restoration, what that looks like on the north edge or along the northern limits of the Alps Road rollouts, I'd actually have to pull the approved drawings as issued by the province as to what that edge looks like. Off the top of my head, I can't recall whether it's a full removal, partial removal, and what the grade would look like once the north side is finished up.
Ms. Fluid, if you could leave your email information and my CEO staff will get back to you on that issue. If you could, do you have an email?
Yeah, I do.
So if you leave that with us, and we'll get back to you on that. Mr. Gross, on the issue of I just talked to the minister and they hired 125, of which we are working with. And that was my complaint to him, that he had Diane Shear, and that was just about it. And she retired, so now it's 125.
Field agents.
I am as well. 125 have just been hired.
Oh, wow, when was that?
I
was told it was by a field agent.
I was with the minister, with the mayor of Cowlitz and the mayor of Burlington last month, was it, Mr. McNeely?
Madam Mayor, we were speaking with the minister along with our counterparts in Paladin and Burlington, for the end of May.
Thank you. Anyways, is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak? Go ahead. Can you give your name, please?
Jeanette Lorenz, Taylor Court. Again, I was here last time, and I just want to restate that regardless of what the pits say, there will be dust, there will be noise, there will be trembling, and there will be more trucks. I just want to draw your attention to the record today. It talks about North Dumfries. The article reads, new gravel pits could be paused in North Dumfries. Talks about 50 licensed pits in our township. And it also goes on to say, staff describe interim control bylaws bluntly. And ICBL provides a pause to prevent a situation from getting out of control. Depending which side of the fence you sit on, the aggregate landscape in North Dumfries could be described as out of control. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day, Mayor, councilors, the Republican staff. It's Michael Rice. I live in West Gulf. My parents own a farm on Elks Road. When I keep hearing how these gravel pits are converted back to farmland, do any of you know of any site that's growing any crops on them? Because I know two along 97 that are. Sure.
I don't want to take your time. You're talking about.
Okay. So that's my one concern. The burns are supposed to be subsoil and topsoil, so they're supposed to be put back on the earth so that back on the ground so that the earth can grow crops, and that's very important for all of us, obviously. The fact that we're losing gravel is destroying our farmland, and we all know that. There's nothing else to be said about that. But what I'm very concerned about is, I've been here a few times now, and I just feel there's just complacency there out of all of you. And this isn't a finger pointing episode, that's not what I do, but I'm just reading and just seeing how things are happening. And people get defensive, you know, when they feel they're being attacked. That's a given. But as I used to run, I used to be the chairman of Football Ontario. So I used to deal with Quebec and the Canadian government, Ontario government with funding. We never went personal. We never got mad at each other. It's just business. We just did business. And I'm a little concerned of how the council right now is perceiving the Ontario government and what's happening with aggregate. And sure, you probably feel like you've been beat up. But welcome to the government. That's what they do. That's just what they do. But you're all elected officials. We need to really stand together and try to fight them as best we can. And that takes a lot of different tools. And you should be pulling from the public to get those tools that you need. I just find it a little disheartening what I'm seeing since I've been coming to the meetings. I used to come years ago. We used to have a organization called PITS. I forget what it stood for, but we were fighting gravel pits back in the day. I haven't been associated with that for a long time, but and I think it's gone actually. But it's very important to have a council that, you know, musters up what they need to do to fight the gravel pits and the government. I'm not saying they're in collusion or they're working together. I do have some challenges with some of the things I've seen and I've read and I've witnessed myself. But as a council, as elected officials, we really need to do our job. And that sometimes makes us get a little dirty. We just really need to do that. These people are counting on you. They've elected you to do a job, and you have to do that job. It's very important. And if you're not willing to do it, step aside and let someone else do it. And I'm not threatening anybody, it won't be me. But we need people on this board and this council working for the general public. And I just feel everybody here, when they come up and talk, it feels like they feel like they're being attacked, that they have to express themselves. Really, council should be engaging. Not just asking questions, not keeping the time clock going. I know everybody has a certain 5-minute limit, but these are things that the general public needs. And we need representation. Because a united front is going to get us a lot further than a divided front. So that's all I really wanted to say. I just hope everybody on this council is really working for their best effort for as a community, not personal.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak?
Oh, I just wanted to say one more thing. When I was listening to my brother, he wasn't attacking. He was suggesting. So let's keep that in mind. Yeah.
It's recorded.
Yeah, it sounds kind of that way, but
It's recorded.
yeah.
Who else like to speak? Hold on. See, no more comments. Any comments from council? Council Rosner?
I have questions, about the whole process, just so I'm clear on the options of what we're voting on. The suggestions in here about contacting the different townships and levels of government to see what can be done. Is that a suggestion outside the ICBL, or is that a suggestion inside the ICBL?
Madam Mayor, through the council roster, it could be both inside and outside of the ICBL. The way the recommendation is framed, it's outside the ICBL.
So this vote that's going is to go outside the ICBL, not to institute an ICBL.
That's correct.
Okay. To everybody that's here, we sit and we listen. That's our job. We sit and we listen. When you leave, we talk, we work, we do what we need to do. We don't waste your time sitting here shooting our mouths up. We want to listen to you. We want to know how everybody feels. Obviously, this is a big concern because it's in your neighborhood. We had lengthy discussions, legal discussions about this. My concern, personally as a counselor, and I think I share a lot of opinions, we're concerned with all residents. This is tough. This is a tough fight in your neighborhood. We have to figure out how to do this. But we're very concerned about the costs associated with it and what it's going to cost everybody else in the township. So somehow we have to find a way to make this work so that we can fight this, stop this, slow it down, and create a bylaw that is going to take the concerns of not just you guys now, the next person down the road in 5 years from now, and the next person in 5 years from now. We have to look at that. We have to look at the whole thing. We have to deal with this now, but dealing with this now means we're dealing with everything from here on in, not just the specific situation. My concern, again, is I've seen the potential costs associated with this. And as council, we need to decide. Do we do this? Do we take that chance? I personally, I would want to see a gravel pit within 80 kilometers of a city or a town or anywhere the kids are, anywhere adult, and I struggle with the fact that the government, on one hand, they want to build 1.5 million homes.
Yes.
If they're surrounding Cambridge with gravel pits,
How are you going
where are you gonna build them?
to? Exactly.
So, as council, we have to decide that, but, at the same time, we are trying to be very careful legally and financially. Because, you know, if we're not land-based on this side, we're gonna be land-based on that side.
Who would do the land-based?
Any other questions, councilors, or comments? Councilor Wilms?
The other 8,000 to 9,000 people in the township. That's what spending their tax dollars by one situation.
Through the mayor to Zia Million. The question I have is, the ICBL needs to be done in good faith. From my understanding of the report, we do meet those guidelines currently, or is there? And I'm still trying to figure out the criteria. At what point are there? Because we're kind of in a situation where we're like frogs in water getting slowly boiled with more and more applications and more gravel pits. And if we're not like this whole good faith argument around ICBLs, I just want to know, is this something now, or is this something when there's 6 to go?
Introduce yourself, Kenny.
Thank you, Worship. Mike Van Bodegum from Duncan, Listeners for the Township. The test for good faith in this circumstance, I should clarify, is not simply that you're operating with the best of intentions or the best views of what's best for the municipality in the abstract. It's, are you following what the plan requires for you in order to meet the test to pass an ICBL? And what that for all practical purpose means in this context, historically at least, is going to be, if you pass it to deal with things that are within the provincial jurisdiction and not the municipal jurisdiction, that's not good faith for purposes of that test. So that means if you're passing it because of the typical concerns that people express, which are legitimate from within provincial jurisdiction, that's where it's a potential problem. We listed those in the report. Let's rattle off a few of them: dust, noise, etc. We've heard more of them today. Very valid concern, obviously, but if you rely on those concerns to pass an ICBL, that would not be in good faith. What we put in the report at your direction is, aside from the draft ICBL, is terms of reference for a planning report that would support it. Those set out legitimate planning concerns, and if those concerns are what drive your decision, at least on the face of it, that would be good faith. Obviously, it's still be subject to what the tribunal or a judge thinks is really motivating this decision. And judges in the OLT can't look into your heart and know why you did something. They have to look at the circumstances. They look at the context. They look at the reports that you relied on. They look at the presentations you relied on. Based on what I have heard from council, from members of the public, what I've seen in the reports that we filed for today's meeting and previously, my best view is that you could pass an ICBL in good faith and it would survive scrutiny. But that's not a guarantee by any stretch. It's more likely than not that it will survive, but that's all I can tell you.
Just to add on to Michael's statements. Attachments 3, 4, and 5 to the report are consistent with the direction from council from September of 2022, whereby council wanted context of what a potential ICBL would look like and the terms of reference for a future study. We have tried in the framing of the terms of reference for that future study walk a very fine line to articulate that council, if they were to exercise this option, is wanting to be strategic and proactive, comprehensive in the review. And we've tried to the best of our abilities to find goals that are within municipal jurisdiction and those where we would be creating a better context in which we could create comments back to the province on matters within the provincial jurisdiction if and when aggregate operations were presented in the form of new applications. That is why there's a fairly large budget. So we've taken a different approach than Caledon have done some previous work. Most recently, 3 years ago with the region appeal, and they were basically now taking the outcomes of some of that earlier work and putting it into policy. and potentially some standards in the bylaw. We're starting from the very beginning. And we touch upon things like environmental systems, linkages and corridors, groundwater regimes. So we're looking now at baseball contributions to water courses, wetlands, and how they support some of these natural systems and features. Alternative technologies that could be deployed to deal with aggregate practices, whether it be noise or dust reduction, and or new ways of extracting aggregate product that may be more responsive to sensitive uses that frame. So it is a complete and comprehensive review, but it works the balance between what's in our jurisdiction, just a small slice of the pie, and what our role as a commenting agency would be to the province for consideration, for their consideration as part of future conditions to on a license.
And it's that study that's $200,000 to $300,000 based on the full criteria.
A broad spectrum that we've identified.
Say something. I hear all about the money. But in these meetings, my name is Shirley Ben Roy, and I live on 59 Greenfield Road. We've got gravel pits on either end of our road. And I walk down the road and hear the questions that, I hear all this about money and everything, and the concerns about money. But what about the health and safety of the people of North Dumfries County? I mean, looking at the accidents, the traffic, the constant gravel trucks, and I mean, Ann Fluid here shared about 2 accidents that happened. I lost a son on Spikes Road many years ago. I know the traffic going back and forth. I know the gravel trucks go down the roads that they're not supposed to go on when I walk every day. And I'm thinking that, we're so concerned about this money that we're going to spend that we may not get here. But what about the health and safety concern about that have been expressed here?
They don't deem you sensitive.
And you know what, you're absolutely correct, ma'am, and we would like to fight this if we have a ground to stand. And that's what we're looking for, that's what my staff is looking for. Talked to the mayor of Zillow, and he suggested that I keep working with the ministry. Talked to the mayor of Caliban, and she said it was based on the previous time that they won. I haven't talked to anyone that's been successful with the ICBL and got good product. That's, I want to win. I don't want to go and burn money. I want to win. And that's so we know we can't touch noise. We know we can't touch dust. We know we can't just call homes. But what can we win out? Now, is it possible to do a few unique things like you saw the map and you saw the corridor, City Creek Road, and I've worked at cumulative impacts before, and now it's Council's turn to talk, please. And they turned me down, but is it time to bring a cumulative impact again? Because I think it's essential. I'm going to do, and my CEO thinks the same thing, and it's all what we have to weigh, and it's a gamble. Do I have the right to gamble my taxpayers' money? Because I don't want it. And that's where I stand. And I'm sorry, this is public only. This is council's time to talk, public voice done. Council Williams.
Sorry to not wait. I would like to propose that this study be considered, regardless of whatever motion we pass, whether or not we go for ICBL or not. And if necessary, that we incorporate that in the 2024 budget. But I think this is really important for us to really understand the issues. And I know it's costly, but I think it's really important. Thank you.
Can you explain, Mr. Is it the one that will do the motion? The motion that I.
Well, it would not, it's not in the current option 1. But I would like to, if the study that would occur if we decide to go for ICBL. And my recommendation is that regardless of whether or not we go for ICBL, we still do the study.
So then we have a revised motion that she has. CEO McNeil.
Madam Mayor, can I just clarification so I fully understand, Council Rome. So right now, we earmarked the need to do a new efficient plan. Putting aside the aggregate discussion we're having right now, we're due for an update to our efficient plan. Council's already allocated some money for that. Part of it is to reflect new policies coming out of the draft provincial planning statement, as well as the recognition of Bill 23 and the transfer of planning authority down to the area municipality from the region. One of your options, to top up, put additional dollars into what was going to be called the efficient plan study to look at specifically in a more depth background study to support the new efficient plan. The comprehensive review to inform future policies in an efficient plan update with specific to aggregates.
I think so, like as long as we get to the same area where we understand this information appropriately and have a good understanding, that'd be great.
We're very close to the 7 o'clock timeline, which we're supposed to switch back to the house. Can we stay on this topic for a while, Steve, and so do we need a procedural motion to
No, Madam Mayor, if you would, please just announce those that are not in the room, but are connected virtually. We're wrapping up the discussion on an agenda item. When this is finished, we'll be starting at 7 o'clock.
Thank you so much. So, as you just heard, people that are online and also in the public here, that we are going to continue with this discussion and then we will go into the council meeting at 7 o'clock. Council Bowman.
Madam Mayor, question I have is for the CEO, through the CEO. Phase 3, I'm just talking about the deliverables in phase 3. One of the things he's mentioning here is including the draft official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. Is some of the funding for this ICBL project, is some of the funding also including the official plan funding? Is that money being budgeted for the plan? Or are they two separate budgets?
Madam Mayor, through the council role, today they would be two separate funding envelopes. So if, following Councillor Williams' discussion, if council provided direction that you wish the efficient plan program to be enhanced, and have a specific component to drill down further on the aggregate sector, what that would look like to, as a background site to inform the other policies related to North Dumfries the new efficient plan, then that would be added money above and beyond what we're currently carrying in budget.
Carry on, Councilman.
Madam Mayor, the reason why I asked the question is because when I look at the Caledon ICBL, it was commingled with their official plan as well. So I'm just wondering, is there a thought that we should enact an ICBL, wait until our official plan is acted, like make it part of the ICBL, part of the official plan process, have an ICBL similar to what Caledon did, or is it something totally different than what Caledon did?
We're going a little bit further beyond what Caledon did. And I'm not too sure how this is fitting into their overall official plan update, because their documents related to the ICBL did not talk about, their growth modeling and bringing in the new PPS, things like that, or the transfer of planning authority down from, well, Peel Region won't exist after January 2025 in Peel, but the transfer of those planning authority down to them. Our planning budget for the new efficient plan took into account those aspects. So they are interrelated. We could find some savings related to the terms of reference budget that was outlined in this report if it was blended into the broader official plan. Partly because we're already having a series of public meetings and workshops and information sessions. So there will be some efficiencies in that aspect, but actually doing the detailed background work specific will be the core of those additional enhanced dollars.
Councilor Austin.
Thank you, Madam. I just want to be clear. This recommendation, if this is passed, this is in lieu of an ICBL. This puts an ICBL to rest or what?
Madam Mayor, through to Councilor Osmer, if council were to adopt the recommendation that's currently part of the staff report, joint report between myself, you would not be adopting an ICBL.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I would request, if the rest of council agrees with me or not, I would request that the report be deferred till we get clarification, and maybe we can incorporate an ICBL into the staff report. Because I don't think that we should have a recommendation that sets aside an ICBL. I think that we need to look further into it and go as far as we can and hope that we're gonna be successful.
I think that a motion change suggestion by Councilor Wells may clarify for you. If we turn it down, it doesn't mean we can't come back to this ICB. But it's Councilor Tully, you had.
My understanding, this is, I understand I lived in Northumberland most of my life, but don't live as close to the pits that you do. I don't have to deal with the same stuff. I live in farmers fields, which have their issues, but not the same. My understanding is that we're dealing with something where there's a set of rules that have been enforced by a provincial government. And to come to us and to ask us to work with you is totally, completely understandable. Unfortunately, the buck doesn't stop here. It's just the starting point. And what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to see is how we can make a difference in getting the provincial government to change their mind. Because it's really not us. You've got all of us on your side. It may seem like there's some resistance. The resistance isn't because of the fact that we don't want to fix this. The resistance is that there's so little we can fix. And I know, I understand, I talked to Karen today, Karen Scott Booth, and we had a long conversation about the options and the things, and she believes there's something that can be done. And I understand that she believes there's something that can be done. But that's a belief. That's the same belief that we all have to walk in and try and hope for change. And that's where we need to understand that we can do as much as we're willing to try to do. And that is the limit that we can go to. The limit's only on our own effort. There's I'm not pointing fingers, but people are standing up there saying, we need to do something, but it won't be me. And I understand that. Not everybody can do the task. Not everybody's willing to put the time and effort to make that big difference. Not everyone wants to sit in a position, and I get that. What I'd like to see, and honestly, what I'd like to do, is it's the provincial government's making this happen. It's making this done. We got to take the fight to them. Really, it's the only way. And to put no, and I get no. Sorry, I'm going to flip flop a little bit, but it's not really flip flopping. Is to put a pause isn't really solving anything. And just hear me out for a second here. It's not meant to punch any buttons. We need to come up with a solution, not just ask for more time. This has been happening. How many people live here more than 40 years? Okay. So this has been happening for all the 40 years. I've heard people say that, but still nothing has happened. It's still going on. And to put a pause on something isn't going to solve the problem. The solution is going to be to get the Ontario government to stop doing what they're doing. And that's the issue. And we're not going to do that by just spending money. Let's be honest. We're not going to do it by spending money. And that's what Derek was saying. That's what Councilor Osmer was saying, is that we don't want to just spend money because it's going to get a pause. What we want to do, we want to spend money to make a difference. And we've got to make a difference by grabbing their attention and making them understand that it's not acceptable what they're doing. To cram this many bits into such a small area that literally, when you look at the topical map, it looks ridiculous, especially in specific areas. You have our understanding, you have our side, but we got to come up with a solution. And it can be something that's more than your representatives. You already have groups that are fighting for it. You already have people, but coming together and going to the government, the provincial government, making them change is really what we should be pushing for. That's really how I feel.
Thank you, Councilor Tully. One thing I'd like to say about that though is when I met with Graydon Smith, Graydon Smith is the Minister of National Justice and Force in charge of aggregate. He was also the mayor of Gracebridge for a while. And when I was chair of TAPMO, he insisted his councillors sit on my board of TAPMO as we fought aggregate. So he said, the Premier stated to him, get as much aggregate out now as you can. What Graydon's done is he's doing a study, which is exactly what we want. We want the study to show us how much aggregate's been taken out, how many licenses are given out that are sitting idle? How much is actually needed? And there's some information, but he's doing this himself, so he can stand up to the premier and say, look at what's available. So this is the minister doing this, but he's doing it based on data, which is great. And I have great hopes with him, but he's fighting an uphill battle at the province, and that's him alone. So he needs the data to say to the premier, there's aggregate, there's enough already. So that's what, and I think that's wonderful that he's doing that, even though we know he's sticking his neck out. But getting back to this situation, see on the feeling.
Madam Mayor, if I could draw council to page 13, this might assist Councillor Oster and the query that was made. So at the top of page 13 of the staff report, it identifies 3 options that are available to council.
Excuse me, Andrew.
So page 162 in the overall listing. So in terms of next steps, we identified 3 options that were available to council arising from consideration of tonight's report and the presentations and discussions presented from members either orally or written. So option 1 is to not adopt the ICBL. Option 2 was to advance forward with the resolution, the terms of reference, and the bylaw to enact an ICBL. Those documents are included as attachments to today's report. So if council wishes to move forward with an ICBL, the resolution has already been crafted for you. And the bylaw has been framed. All we have to do is insert the next bylaw number and sequence. And from that, there would be then an actionable item in terms of moving forward with an interim control bylaw in the context in which we would be advancing the interim control bylaw. Option 3 was council doesn't have enough information. There's some specific questions that still are outstanding in your mind. You would identify what those are, and then staff and legal counsel would return to a future meeting with a response to whatever those outstanding questions that you might have, so that you can make an informed and full decision. Now, I'm going to suggest, based on the discussion with Councillor Williams that arose a few moments ago, there could be an option 1B. And so you would take the recommendation that's presently framed in the staff report, and you would add another recital that would say something to the effect, and that is part of the preparation of the 2024 budget. The council allocate the appropriate funds to do the in-depth background report, support a review of the aggregate sector to inform the update to the official plan. And so, as part of our draft document, we're back before council in August with our first cut of the forecast. We would be identifying what that would look like in terms of order of magnitude as direction, as a go-forward strategy, as part of a broader official plan update that council is already on a track to do.
Councilors, any other questions, comments? Councilor Brown.
One of the things I would also like to see if there's any way we could also provide the comments and the feedback that we've been getting directly to the Premier and the Minister of Natural Resources, so that they can also hear from our residents.
Most of the comments have gone to them because they've included them in the most emails that we've attached. Have Brian Rigel on it, the Minister of Natural Resources. So they have.
And when we can get a follow-up response from them.
We can try.
I had some Councillor Tilly hit on that main point there. He's right on target. There's judicial process and there's governmental process. You need to go to judicial process. This doesn't work governmental process. We've seen this for way over 4 years. He's on point. He nailed it. That's the answer to your query, Councillor Tilly. Judicial process, not governmental process.
So I appreciate that, but I need to be 100% upfront, and it's not, again, it's not because I don't love to be loved. But I'm not for the ICBL, and the reason I'm not is because of the fact that we need to do something more than just stop them. We need to stop them.
I agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree.
That's my opinion.
Sorry, Councilor Hoffman, you had mentioned there is just a small group of us here from the community. I agree with that. I mean, there is a small representation here. Have you done polling in your community in North Dumfries? Have you done a solid polling on how to deal with the aggregate situation we currently have? Yeah, I mean, that will give you some power. I mean, right now, I understand your challenges right now. You know, how do we spend money when not everybody's invested in? And I totally agree, the polling would help you. It also puts the government on their feet as well.
There were three town halls, the public, and we're not willing to spend the tax dollars. If it was with, we would not. So they're not willing to spend the tax dollars, and we can't do it.
That was the concern.
Those are three town hall meetings.
Yeah, but it was the poll. Like, did you actually send it out by mail?
Oh,
Yeah,
they're
see,
played it.
last time I analyzed, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but the last time we were here, Mark Everett was here. He lived right on the corner of Elks Road and he's in front of I.
Yes.
Didn't even know this meeting was happening. He
Okay.
didn't even know this was. So
That's not our fault, it's all
That's a bit of a
the-
challenge, the poll is important.
So where are we at, councillors? Did you want to change a motion, councillor Rose? You know, the public's done. I asked the public. We're 16 minutes late for the council meeting, which people are waiting to get into online and that. So, well, please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to have that amendment added to option A. I'm currently not totally comfortable with the ICBL, but I would like to see that study happen because I think it'll be very important for.
So Madam Mayor, if I can suggest, you would introduce the motion that's currently on the floor. It has not yet been put on the floor. So you would need a mover and a seconder. And then there'll be you'd call for a discussion amongst members of council. And then Councillor Wilms may suggest something along the lines of renumbering the resolution. And so what is currently recital 6 would become recital 7. And you would craft a new 6, which would be something to the effect, and that staff as part of the preparation of the 2024 capital budget, present for council's consideration additional funding dollars to undertake a comprehensive background report on the agricultural aggregate sector for the purposes of forming a new official plan update.
So I'm going to ask that Councillor Rowland, and I'm sorry, Councillor Rowland, you'll have to read it in its entirety as it is, and then comes at the discussion time should Councillor Rowland like to insert the fiscal board.
Madam Mayor. Move on myself, second by Councillor Ostner, that P report number 30-2023 be received. The council advance forward and champion dialogue with province partnership organizations such as the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, Ontario Stone, Sand and Gravel Association, environmental groups, top agri producing municipalities of Ontario, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Indigenous leaders, Conservative for Conservation Ontario, and others to discuss opportunities and a framework to modernize, refresh, and establish balanced policies and processes to deal with the establishment of new or expanding stone, sand, or gravel operations under the authority of the Aggregate Resources Act. And that township pursue discussions with the township of Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich concerning the upcoming review of their respective official plans with respect to aggregate-related development, applications, and associated processes to standardize approaches and strategies related to aggregate activity where possible. And that the township pursue discussions with the townships of Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich to frame the opportunity to have community-wide public engagement workshops and forums focused on the issue of aggregate-related development and associated processes to assist in the development of responsive policies as part of the upcoming review of their individual official plans. and that council adopt principles outlined in P report number 29-2023 pertaining to the draft provincial policy statement as it pertains to agri-related land use activities with the objective to inform and update provincial policies related to agri activity. And six, that the Township of Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich, and members of the provincial parliament for Waterloo Region be circulated a copy of this resolution for their information.
Any discussion, Council Rose?
Right, there's a couple things I wanted to change, but first of all, just to add the amendment to this study and include it into the 2024 budget. So that would be a new number 6. I think for number 4, it's lovely that we're going to talk with the townships of Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich and have community-wide public engagements. But I'd also like to see if there's any way we can get provincial engagement and involvement in that particular workshop or forum or whatever as well. So I think it's really important that they hear. And for the other 6, I would like to see this not just to the MPPs of our region, but also to the Minister of Natural Resources and the Premier.
So right now staff is trying to type on what she had.
I want that, yeah, I want this to, yeah, not just to do second piece. Yeah.
Yes. So, Councilor Williams is, asked for this amendment for the motion, and I have to ask the mover and seconder, or they consider the friendly amendment? Councilor Williams, please say verbally.
Yes.
Lawson.
Outside it.
Okay, can I have the motion as amended when she gets ready? have one question. I think there would be a lot of municipalities that would like to see this motion and also use it. And maybe jump on board. So do we want to circulate this to Anna? Can we circulate it to Anna, please? Yeah. We circulate a copy of this, yeah. AMO is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. So it's all the municipalities in Ontario. And see what we're doing, see if they want to jump on board with this. All right, yeah, we can change this. Supposed to start this end. Council Bowman, if you will, please.
Want to hear the whole thing again?
Yes, please.
Moved by myself, so by Councilor Officer, that P report number 30-2023 be received. And that council advances forward in championing dialogue with the province in partnership with the organizations such as the Agriculture, the Ontario Stone and Golf Association, environmental groups, TAPMO, AMO, Indigenous leaders, the Conservation Ontario, and others to discuss opportunities in a framework to modernize, refresh, establish balanced policy process to the establishment of new or expanding stone, sand, and gravel operations under the authority of the ARA. And that the township pursue discussions with the township of Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich concerning the upcoming review of the respective official plans with respect to aggregated development applications and associated processes, standardized approaches and strategies related to aggregate activity where possible. Or that the township pursue discussions with the township of Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich to extend an invitation to municipal officials to bring the opportunity that community-wide public engagement workshops and forums focus on the issue of aggregate development and associated processes to assist in the development of responsive policy as part of the upcoming review of individual official plans. 5, that council adopt principles outlined in P report number 29-2023 pertaining to the draft provincial policy statement as it pertains to aggregate land use activities with the objective to inform and update provincial policies related to aggregate activity. 6, and that as part of the preparation of the 2024 capital budget, staff prepare for council's consideration the appropriate funding to conduct a review and study of the aggregate sector to inform the township's official plan update. And 7, and that the township of Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich, and the members of the provincial parliament for Water Region, Minister of Natural Resources, Premier for Ontario, and AMO circulate a copy of this resolution for the commission.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, can I have the vote, please? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried, thank you. And now we are switching on to. So now we're switching over to planning and. Cynthia, you let us know when you're ready.
Hey, Stefan. Thank you.
What do you do, man?
I need the motion to consider committee adjustment. Rossman?
I'm gonna, thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Yes.
For myself, secretary of the council meeting be adjourned at 6:29 p.m. Instead of committee adjustment.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Can I have approval of the past minutes, please, Council Williams?
Moved by myself, second by Council Osmer, that committee of adjustment approved the meeting minutes dated June 2023.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Members of the public are able to attend the township office in person to speak to any application registered with the fifth division in advance to attend electronically. Members of the public who have registered to attend electronically have been provided with a Zoom link to join the meeting this evening and have indicated to staff which application they would like to participate in. Staff will move these individuals who have registered into the meeting to speak in the order of the application being heard, and those who are present in person who will be able to speak to the application when it is reached on the agenda and will be asked to approach the podium to speak. Please note that all speakers are provided with no more than 5 minutes to address the application. The clerk will time each speaker and advise the chair when the 5-minute time period is up. And also, if you'd like to sign the sign-in sheet at the front for the application that you're here to discuss. All right, so the first one, committee of adjustment, we did the minutes. Report number P 25/2023, minor variance application for 14 Doors Estate Court. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The secretary treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or have registered with the third division to attend the meeting this evening. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Christina Glazanova, planner GIS technician, who will be presenting this application. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentation is for minor variance application 8-09/22 located at 14 Gore State Court. The public meeting was held on February 28th, 2023, and the purpose of this meeting is to advance the recommendation for the committee's consideration on the merits of this application. As a brief summary from the public meeting, the property is located at the southern limits of the Gore State Court on the east side of the cul-de-sac. The property has a lot frontage of approximately 9 meters and a lot area of approximately 600 square meters. The property consists of a single detached bungalow and surrounding land uses are primarily residential. This property is zoned Z4 urban residential and is designated urban residential and ancillary in the township official plan. The owner is proposing to construct an uncovered deck in the rear yard of the subject property. The proposed deck will be attached to the principal dwelling, and this uncovered deck will be approximately 19 square meters in size. The owner is seeking relief from section 6.41 to permit a deck to intrude 3.73 meters into the required rear yard setback, whereas section 6.41 does not permit a deck to intrude any further than 3 meters into the required rear yard. Shown again is a photo of the rear yard, the subject property, and the proposed approximate location of the uncovered deck. One piece of correspondence was received from an adjacent property owner located at 258 North Hudson Street. Their concern was regarding privacy. Planning staff acknowledges concern of privacy. However, the property owner as of right may construct a deck at this proposed height that is reduced in depth by 0.73 meters or about 2 feet. In this case, a variance would not have been required, but may still create the same sort of impact of privacy to the adjacent properties. The Director of Engineering and Public Works also attended the site and noted a few areas of concern, but noted that they were minor in nature and would only impact the subject property. The grading plan that was submitted to the director is acceptable subject to the redline comments that were made. And the redline comments are included in attachment number 1 to report PD 25/2023. Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variance meets the 4 tests of the minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first test being that the proposed variance conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. In this case, the construction of a deck is a permitted use in the zoning bylaw. And the general zoning bylaw currently contains regulations that permitted that to enter into the required rear yard. The applicants have requested slightly greater protection. Number two, if the variance conforms with the general intent of the official plan. The proposed variance not altering the existing development in terms of visual impact and is compatible with the surrounding land uses. Number three, if the proposed variance is desirable, the owner wishes to create an outdoor amenity space and is an appropriate accessory structure for this residential property. Four, and lastly, if the proposed variance is minor in nature, the proposed increase in encroachment of 0.73 meters or approximately 2 feet. The property owner is currently permitted to construct a deck at the same height that may impact privacy at adjacent properties. An additional 2 feet of deck space will not further impact the privacy of adjacent properties. Planning staff recommend that minor variance application A-09/22 for 14 Gore State Court be approved, subject to the condition listed in the recommendation section of the report.
Thank you, Christine. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this application? Seeing no one, is there any member of the council that wishes to speak on this application? Seeing no one, can I have the motion, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Roman, that the number 25/2023 be received and that minor variance for application A-09-/22 being a request to seek relief from zoning bylaw 689-83 to permit a deck to intrude 3.73 meters into the required rear deck setback where section 6.41 of the general zoning bylaw 689-83 permits a maximum intrusion of 3 meters. Be approved is subject to the following. One, the proposed deck shall be the setback from the side north property line by a minimum distance of 1.55 meters. Two, that the northwest corner of the proposed SB setback from the rear east property line by a minimum distance of 4.58 meters. And three, the southeast corner of the proposed deck shall be set back from the rear east property line by a minimum distance of 3.77 meters.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next up is report number PD 26/2023, minor variance application for 104 Mitchell Street, file number A-05/23. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended the county court, and registered with the Coach Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of the future meeting. I now begin to introduce Christina Blazanovic, Planner GIS Technician, who will be presenting this application. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam. The following presentation for minor variance application A-005/23 located at 104 Mitchell Street. A public meeting was held on June 20th, 2023. The purpose of this meeting is to advance a recommendation for the committee's consideration on the merits of the application. It's a brief summary from the public meeting. The property is located northwest of the intersection of Mitchell Street and Hunt Street. The property has a lot frontage of approximately 22 meters and the property is approximately 0.34 acres in size. Property consists of a single detached dwelling with a shed and a retaining wall that is adjacent to the east side of the principal dwelling. Surrounding land uses are primarily residential. This property is zoned Z4A urban residential and is designated urban residential and ancillary in the township of Mitchell County. The applicant proposes to construct a deck shown in purple in the side and rear yard of the subject property. It will be an L-shaped deck that is approximately 6.6 meters by 4.2 meters. And will be approximately 21.3 square meters or 230 square feet. There's also an existing retaining wall, which is shown in blue, along the east property line, that is approximately 7.6 meters in length and 1.16 meters in height. As per section 2.213 of the general zoning bylaw, the retaining wall is defined as a structure as it exceeds 0.91 meters in height and therefore requires a minor variance. The owner is requesting the following 3 variances. To permit the existing retaining wall to be located 1.61 meters from the main building on an adjoining lot and 0 meters from the interior side lot line. Whereas section 6.4.2 of the general zoning bylaw requires a structure to be located a minimum of 3 meters from the main building on an adjoining lot and 1 meter from the interior side lot line. Secondly, to permit the existing retaining wall structure to have a side yard setback of 0 meters, whereas section 6.5.2 does not permit the structure to be located within a required side yard, which would be 1.5 meters in this case. And lastly, to permit a deck to encroach 0.18 meters or 7 inches into the required side yard. Sorry, into the required setback, whereas section 6.4.1I of the general zoning bylaw does not permit an encroachment into the required side yard. The photo on the left is a view of the rear yard. The blue line shows the approximate area of the proposed deck. The photo on the right is a view of the side yard along the east side of the principal dwelling. As you can see, the retaining wall is located along the property line, and the approximate area of the proposed deck is highlighted in purple. There have been no comments or concerns from any members of the public. There are no concerns from the fire department or the region of Waterloo. As mentioned previously, the GRC will require a review fee of $300, and the engineering and public works department advised that the downspouts must be erected away from the side yard stairs. The building department has advised that construction of the deck must stop until a decision from the committee is made and building permits are issued. A building permit will not be required for the retaining wall, as it does not meet the definition of a structure as per the Ontario Building Code. Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variances meet the 4 tests of the minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. First test being if the proposed variance conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. In this case, decks and retaining wall structures are permitted uses within a Z40 or the residential zone. 2, if the variances conform with the general intent of the official plan. The proposed variances are not altering existing development in terms of visual impacts and is compatible with surrounding land uses. As the property is designated urban residential and ancillary in the township official plan, the type and density of residential development and set in specific ancillary uses are regulated through the township zoning bylaw. 3, if the proposed variances are desirable, the existing retaining wall is desirable for the subject property, as it delineates the property boundary where there is no existing fence and contributes to the landscaping of the subject property. The proposed deck is desirable for the subject property, as the deck is necessary to allow for an entrance and exit to the rear addition on the property. And lastly, if the proposed variances are minor in nature, a reduced side yard setback of 0.18 meters or 7 inches for the proposed deck is minimal and will allow for the deck's edge to be in line with the existing stairs along the east side of the principal dwelling, entering into the rear yard. And a side yard setback of 0 meters for the existing retaining wall is minor, as there is no proposed impact on the adjacent property, and there's sufficient room remaining to enter into the rear yard safely. As well, a fence would be permitted to be constructed on the property line, which is much greater in height. The existing retaining wall the existing retaining wall allows the area to generally remain open and unenclosed. Planning staff recommend that minor variance application A-05/23 for 104 Mitchell Street be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the recommendation section of report number PD 26/2020.
Thank you, Christina. Councilors, any questions, comments? Any members of the public, questions, comments? Can I have the motion, please?
By myself and Councilor Oster, that P report number 26/2023 be received, and that minor variance application A-0523 being requested to seek leave from general zoning bylaw 689-83. So her existing retaining wall structure be located 1.61 meters from the main building on the adjoining lot and 0 meters from the interior side lot line, whereas section 6.4.2 of general zoning bylaw 689-83 requires accessory structure to be located a minimum of 3 meters from any main building on the adjoining lot and 1 meter from any interior or rear lot line. B, an existing retaining wall structure to have a side yard setback of 0 meters, whereas section 6.5.2 of general zoning bylaw 689-83 does not permit a structure to be located within any side yard required by general zoning bylaw 689-83. And C, a deck with a side yard setback of 1.32 meters, whereas section 6.41I, 0.411, I guess, of general zoning bylaw 689-83 requires a minimum setback of 1.5 meters. Be approved, subject to the following: 1, the retaining wall shall be located at a minimum distance of 1.61 meters from any main building on adjoining lot. 2, retaining wall should be located a minimum of 0 meters from the interior side lot line. 3, the proposed deck shall be set back to the side east property line by minimum distance of 1.32 meters. 4, all downspouts should be directed to the front and rear yards to ensure there is no surface water flowing from the downspout discharges on the side of the yard stairs.
Thank you, Councillor Austin. Is it 6.41I? It is I. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Yeah. Report number PB 27/2023 consent application for part lots 35, concession 7, North Boundaries, part lot 14, plan 662 air, parts 2 and 3 and 5, plan 67R 485, save and accept part 1, plan 58R 21400, bracket file number B03/23. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meetings this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Christina Blazarovic, Planner, GIS Technician, who will be presenting this application.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following presentations for consent application B03/23, located at an unaddressed parcel south of Colonial Drive. A public meeting was held on June 20th, 2023, and the purpose of this meeting is to advance a recommendation for the committee's consideration of the merits of the application. The brief summary from the public meeting: this property is located south of Colonial Drive along the Nith River. There is no frontage onto Colonial Drive, and access to the property is through a township-owned block located between 8 and 10 Colonial Drive. The property is approximately 3.46 hectares, or 8.5 acres in size, and consists of natural features. Surrounding land uses are primarily residential and natural features. The property is zoned Z12 open space and designated open space in the township official plan. Consent application B03/23 proposes to convey the northeast portion of the subject property as a lot addition to the adjacent property located at 26 Colonial Drive. No new lot would be created. The proposed lot addition would convey an area of approximately 0.32 acres or 1,300 square meters in size. The proposed lot addition consists of natural features and would remain as natural features. This proposed lot addition would also remain zoned as Z12 open space. As you can see in the photo on the right, the subject property is highlighted in red. The proposed lot addition is highlighted with the blue hatching, and the property proposed to receive the lot addition is highlighted in yellow. The photo on the screen is a view of the rear yard of 26 Colonial Drive. The solid red line is the approximate location of the side property line between 26 and 28 Colonial Drive. The red dashed line is the approximate rear yard property line of 26 Colonial Drive. The line behind the red dashed line is the area proposed as a lot addition. As you can see, the proposed lot addition is heavily treated. Planning staff received one piece of correspondence from the adjacent property owners located at 28 Colonial Drive. The correspondence was received on June 14th. The adjacent property owners support the proposed lot addition. They have stated that there are some trees within this lot addition area that require some cleanup, including a branch that had previously fallen and damaged their fence. They have also stated that the owners of 26 Colonial Drive have assured them that they will maintain this portion of the land if the application is approved. There are no objections from the Engineering, Public Works Department or Building Department. The Region of Waterloo requires the regional consent fee of $350 prior to final approval, and the GRCA requested that the area remain zoned as Z12 open space. Staff is satisfied that the proposed application is appropriate. Staff's opinion is based on the following: that no major comments or concerns received from external or internal agencies that would preclude this proposed consent application from moving forward. That one piece of correspondence was received from the adjacent property owner, which consisted of a letter of support. The current zoning classification of the proposed lot addition will remain the same so as to not impact existing environmental features. The general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw are maintained. And the proposed lot addition is an efficient use of the land, creating a more appropriate lot configuration and reducing an existing landlocked parcel. Staff recommend that consent application B03/23 be approved subject to the conditions listed in the recommendation section of report number E 27/2023.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this? Seeing none, any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councillor Austin?
Move on myself, second by Councillor Tilly, that PD report number 27/2023 be received. And that consent application B-0323, being a request to convey the northeast portion of the subject property of a lot addition to the adjacent property, municipally addressed as 26 Colonial Drive, be approved subject to the following conditions. One, that the applicant submit a reference plan prepared by an Ontario Land Survey illustrating the proposed lot addition to the satisfaction of the township of North Humphreys. And that the applicant pay $315 as the township administration fee. And the applicant submit a regional consent fee of $350 to the satisfaction of the regional water rate. That the owners pay the township any outstanding taxes in full on the property. And that the above conditions be fulfilled. And the document for conveyance certificate of consent be completed by the secretary treasurer of the committee within 2 years of the date of written decision pursuant to section 5317 of the Planning Act RSO 1990. Otherwise, the approval shall lapse.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Next, we have PB 28/2023, minor variance application for 1277 Cameron Road, file number A04/23. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The secretary treasurer will call everyone who has commented on this application attended and or have registered with the clerk's division to attend the meeting this evening. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Christina Blasino, planner, GIS, subdivision, who will be presenting this application.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentation is for minor variance application A04/23 located at 1277 Canyon Road. The public meeting was held on June 20th, 2023, and the purpose of this meeting is to advance the recommendation for the committee's consideration. The brief summary from the public meetings: property is located on Cameron Road, south of the intersection of New Dundee Road and Cameron Road. The property has a lot frontage of approximately 36.5 acres onto Cameron Road and is approximately 2,000 square meters in size. The separate property consists of a 2-story single detached dwelling and a full house. Surrounding land uses are primarily agriculture, and this property is zoned Z1 agriculture and designated rural area and protected countryside in the township official plan. The owner is proposing to construct a 2-story detached garage with recreational space on the 2nd story. This accessory building will be approximately 117 square meters in size, and the 2nd story will be recreational living space, which includes game rooms and storage rooms. The property was subject to a minor variance application filed A08/22 in earlier 2023. The applicant at that time sought relief from general zoning bylaw 689 to permit the following: a detached garage structure with recreational space on the 2nd story within a required side yard. The requested setback at that time was 1.52 meters or 5 feet. A detached garage structure with habitable space on the 2nd story. An existing full house structure within a required side yard setback. The requested side yard setback at that time was 1.52 meters or 5 feet. The owner was granted a variance by the Committee of Adjustment on March 13th, 2023 to permit the following: a detached garage structure with a minimum side yard setback of 3 meters 10 feet and a rear yard setback of 3 meters 10 feet. A detached garage structure with habitable space on the 2nd story, and the existing full house structure to be located for the lot. The applicant has since revised their proposal to comply with the rear yard setback of 3 meters 10 feet and is now requesting a new side yard setback. The requested variance is our section 6.4.1 of the general zoning bylaw establishes that no person shall erect an accessory building within a required side yard established by this bylaw. As per zone 1, the minimum required setback would be 3 meters or 10 feet. The owner is seeking relief from this provision to establish a side yard setback of 1 meter or 3 feet for the proposed accessory building. And section 7.23B also requires a minimum side yard setback of no less than 3 meters or 10 feet. We're seeking relief from this to permit a side yard setback of 1 meter 3 feet for the proposed accessory building. These photos were included in the last public meeting, so the photo located at the bottom left is a view of the side property line. As you can see, there are currently trees and shrubs along the property line. The photo in the top left is also a view of the side property line where the proposed accessory building will be located. The photo located in the top right is the area immediately behind the proposed accessory building, and the photo on the bottom right is the area of the proposed accessory building. Agency correspondence, there have been no concerns from the fire department, Genesee Region of Waterloo, Engineering and Public Works, or Enbridge. The building department has no record of a building permit for the pool or pool house, and will require permits. The building department will also require some additional information that would be required at the time of building permit submission. Public correspondence, one piece of correspondence has been received from the adjacent property owners. There's some summary of the comments are as follows. The parent family have stated that they own the property across the street and they farm the agricultural fields surrounding the separate property. They are concerned that the proposed garage will impact their agricultural fields due to its proposed height and setbacks to the property lines. The specific concern is the cast of a shadow onto the field crops, which could impact these crops. The residents prefer a setback of 3 meters 10 feet instead of the requested reduced setback of 1 meter 3 feet. The residents are concerned that the proposed accessory garage will be utilized as a second residence, and the residents are also concerned about vehicles being parked on the road by the applicant. So staff acknowledge the concern of the height of the proposed accessory building, as the subject property is zone 1 agriculture. Section 6.4.7 of the zoning bylaw exempts this property from a maximum building height of an accessory building. So staff have recommended a height to the proposed building to limit how high the structure will be. Planning staff also acknowledged the concerns regarding the proposed use of the accessory building and vehicles parked on the road. The applicant has confirmed that the accessory building will not be used as a second residence. And it's also important to note that an accessory residential unit is not on the second floor of this detached garage is not a permitted use in the general zoning bylaw. Regarding the concern for parking of vehicles on the roadway, in the event that this occurs, it should be reported to the township's bylaw enforcement division, and they would be able to review the situation. There is sufficient vehicle parking on this. There is sufficient vehicle parking space on the subject lands. As mentioned, there have been some concerns of potential impacts of shadow from the adjacent agricultural fields. So the photo on the screen is an aerial view from 2020. As you can see, it appears that the imagery was taken likely in the afternoon, evening, as a shadow is visible. There is a shadow from the principal dwelling, as well as a small shadow from the pool house. As you can see, there is no shadow cast on the agricultural fields to the north, where the proposed accessory garage would be located. Any proposed shadow of the accessory building would be cast to the east. It appears that there may be a smaller shadow cast by the pool house. However, the adjacent residents did not note a significant effect on their agricultural fields because of this minor shadow. It is not anticipated that the agricultural fields to the north will be impacted by shadows, as the direction of the sun is in an east to west pattern. The photo on the screen shows a fire pit located in the area of the field that is not farmed. As well as you can see in the photo, the proposed accessory garage will be set back from the eastern agricultural fields by approximately 6 meters. To reduce the impact of shadows on the eastern agricultural fields, it is most suitable for the garage to be located as close to the side property line as possible to reduce the impact of shadows at the south end of the building. If there is a shadow on the eastern agricultural fields, the majority of the shadow will be cast on the corner of the field that is not farmed. The cultivated field to the north of the proposed shed is approximately 3 meters setback from the property line. With the setback of the proposed detached garage at 1 meter from the property line, the crops would be approximately 4 meters removed from the edge of the proposed building to the south, which, as shown in the photo, is in the corner of the field where cultivation of crops is not occurring. Staff also assessed the deciduous tree located at the rear of Cowan Park, adjacent to cultivated fields to the immediate north. This tree shown on the left is of comparable height to the proposed detached garage. The canopy of the tree abuts the Cowan Park fence, and the corn crop is set back approximately 1.2 meters from the fence. The first 2 rows of corn were impacted by the cast of the shadow from the tree, as noted in the right photo. However, the balance of the crop resembled the height and density of growth across the open area of the field. Staff have estimated that the cast of the shadow from the tree to the third row of the corn should be 3 meters measured inward from the property line. By contrast, the proposed detached garage to the edge of the cultivated field is estimated to be 4 meters. Based upon this review of slides 9, 10, and 11, staff do not believe that there will be any negative impact on the field crop as a result of this minor variance request along the north property line associated with with variance application 804/23. Some additional comments during the public meeting included the concern of stormwater management, the storage of building materials for the proposed development, and the proposed lot coverage of accessory buildings and the requirement for open landscaping in the rear yard. Stormwater management will be addressed at the time of the permit application. The existing concrete surface represents an impervious surface, and there's no evidence of runoff onto the adjacent property to the north, to the north or east. Additionally, the armor stone landscape feature also prevents migration of surface flow from the residential property onto the adjacent field to the north. The storage of building materials is not permitted to be stored along the roadway. In the event that this occurs, staff encourage residents to contact the bylaw enforcement division to address the matter if the situation arises. Regarding the lot coverage of accessory buildings, the property will contain the proposed garage and the existing pool house, which total approximately 138 meters square. As the subject property is just over 2,000 square meters in size, the accessory buildings account for approximately 6.7 meters of the lot, 6.7% of the lot coverage, which is less than the permitted maximum of 10% for the Z1 zone. General zoning bylaw 689-83 does not currently contain any regulations that require a minimum of the rear yard to be soft landscaping. So the existing condition of the rear yard is not in violation of the general zoning bylaw. As the proposed area for the accessory building is already comprised of an impervious surface, there will be no further removal of any soft landscaping in the rear yard. Staff also took an approximate an approximate calculation of the paved area, which included the driveway and the paved and landscape rear yard and pool area, which accounts for roughly 45% of the lot coverage. Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variance meet the 4 tests of the minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first test being that the variance is conformed to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposed building is a permitted use in the Z1 zone. Any potential impacts of shadows would be minimal. And the purpose of this increased side yard setback for accessory buildings located within the Z1 zone is to ensure that farm buildings are similar or are located at an appropriate distance from neighboring properties and land uses. While this property is zoned Z1 agricultural, it is not utilized as a farm property and represents a rural residential property. The required side yard setback of an accessory building on a rural residential property is 1 meter. So the proposed accessory building will be located at that distance of 1 meter. Number 2, if the variance is conformed with the intent of the official plan. The township official plan contains policies that state that the uses within the agricultural designation will be regulated through the township zoning bylaw, and the township zoning bylaw permits residential dwellings and accessory structures. Number 3, if the proposed variances are desirable. The proposed accessory building is desirable for the homeowners as they require additional garage space and recreational space on the subject property. The proposed location of the accessory garage is the most appropriate option to reduce the impact of any shadows. As described in the previous slides, the rear agricultural field contains a corner of unusable land. The closer the garage is to the side property line, the less the rear agricultural field will be impacted. And lastly, if the proposed variances are minor in nature. There is existing screening along the side property line where the proposed accessory garage would be located. The screening includes trees and shrubs, vines growing on the existing fence. Any shadows that may be cast on the eastern agricultural field will not significantly impact crops. As well, the shadows for a small portion of the day, likely the late afternoon or evening, will not create full shade on the agricultural fields. While the minimum side yard requirement is 3 meters, there are no immediate neighbors or buildings in the vicinity of the subject property. Therefore, a reduced side yard setback by approximately 2 meters is minor. Planning staff recommend that minor variance application 8-04/23 for 1277 Cameron Road be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the recommendation section of report PD 28/23.
Thank you, Christina. And I believe Mr. Chairman wants to speak. I have you down for speak. Please come to the podium, please. Thank you.
It's all about the shade thing, maybe still, but. We've already taken 4 feet all the way around 3 sides with where we don't crop. And the trees are overhanging to the south quite sufficient. And you can't tell me that it's not gonna shade going that high. Shade always participates almost the same height as the building if you look out. So I'm still saying it's gonna shade. And by this picture he has there, why can't he move this thing a lot closer to the pool? The truck's not gonna fall in by what he's got by that picture, if that picture's anywhere near accurate. So why can't we stay in the boundary lines to build this thing if we just shuffle everything closer to the pool? That's really all I've got to say.
Thank you, Sam, you wanted to speak? Can you take yourself on mute, please?
Yes, hi, and thank you for all the hard work you guys have put into this. Again, we're actually just trying to move it away from the pool so that we cast less shade. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the less shade, the happier you should be. So I don't know why we would move it closer to the pool, but I will leave it in your guys' good hands. And I appreciate again your hard work on this.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Council Williams.
I just have a question about, so there was this one photo, and I think you showed it as well, Christina, that showed that the house and the shadow.
Yes.
And totally, it felt like without context because there was no date or time stamp attached to it. So I was just wondering if there was any way we can get some more information around when this is.
Madam Mayor, through Councillor Williams, this is an aerial photo from 2020. So I'm assuming it would be sometime in the spring. That's likely when they would do the aerial photography, but I don't know specific date.
Can you have a picture of the shadow again, please? So the building is going to go in the right-hand side corner across, like setback about, how far is it set back from the background?
At 3 meters.
3 meters. Okay, because that's a small pool shed, and look at the extent of the shadow. So that's my, it's almost a building itself, and this is gonna be a higher building?
Correct.
And how far in is that pool shed?
It's approximately, I believe it's a meter or just under, I can't remember the exact setback from the previous.
Okay, well, about a meter, and how far, what's the setback for the garage?
It'll be about, it'll be 3 meters from the property line and about 6 meters from the start of the crop field to the rear.
And so we're pretty sure it's not gonna shadow.
Personally, I don't believe there would be any significant impact if there is any sort of shadow over it.
And Mr. Karen, is that fire pit in that, is that, who's using the fire pit?
That, I don't know, it's a little pot that he has there, I haven't figured out what he does with that, that's.
But you don't crop there, right?
Well, I can't because it's in the corner and it's too tight to the fence, but,
Okay, so that's where a large part of the shadow will come from, right?
well. No, shadow, I don't know, the shadow's gonna come from the north because that's where he's supposed to be building it. Is he not staying 9 feet from the back, like, I mean, to the east? He's staying 9 feet back there?
Correct, it'll be 3 meters, 10 feet from the rear property.
Yeah.
But when.
And 1 meter from the north, why can't we stay 9 feet from the north? And move it closer to his pool. I don't know where he's getting, that he's gonna take more shadow if we move it closer to his pool. Where it's not gonna do anything. He's just crowding the line fence, that's all we're doing. He can crowd to the swimming pool without any problem. Or make it smaller, one or the other, it's not a hard decision.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes, thank you. No, and I apologize about the pool shed. It actually bugs me because it's very high, actually. It had almost like we called it a mainer above it. We've adjusted it. We were actually going to remove it and take it down because it does bug us so much, actually. Because that's our view, that's everything, and that's what we paid for at the end of the day. So we will be taking that down eventually once we have and can move all of our pool equipment inside and around the proposed garage. And the garage is actually it's quite far away from the crops. Like we own a little bit beyond the fence, and there is about 4 feet beyond that. So it's actually closer to 6 meters from both sides at the end of the day, because there's quite a steep slope on the north side. So that's why we are quite confident. I am quite confident that we will not be projecting any shadows at all. And again, the farther we move it away from the pool house, or sorry, away from the pool, the less shadows we're going to cast.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Jones.
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Osmer, that the PD report number 28-2022 be received. And that minor variance application A-04-/23 being a request to seek relief from general zoning bylaw 69-83 to permit one, an accessory garage to be located within the required side yard, whereas section 6.4.1 of general zoning bylaw 689-83 does not permit an accessory building within a required side yard or between any building lines established by this bylaw. B, an accessory garage to have a side yard setback of 1 meter, 3 feet, whereas section 7.2.3b of general zoning bylaw 689-83 requires a minimum side yard setback of 1/2 building height, but in no case less than 3 meters, 10 feet for accessory buildings. Be approved, subject to the following: the accessory garage will be set back from the side yard property line by a minimum distance of 1 meter, 3 feet, and the accessory garage shall be set back from the rear east property line by a minimum distance of 3 meters or 10 feet, and the height of the accessory garage shall not exceed 7.36 meters, 24 feet 2 inches.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Councilor Tim, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Bowman, that committee of the whole is hereby adjourned, and that the council meeting be called back to order.
8:12. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we have number CLK 14/2023, new kennel license application for 3936-3942 Old Beverly Road. Notice has been given to those who reside within 250 meters of the subject property. The clerk will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and/or have registered with the proposed division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision of the convening of future meetings. Please sign the sign-in sheet at the back of the room if you would like to be notified. I'd like to introduce Ms. Sage Township Clerk, who will be presenting this application. Ms. Sage, please.
Following presentation, I will provide an overview for a new kennel license
application that was received for 3936-3942 Old Beverly Road, report number CLK-14-2023. So an outline of what I'm going to cover this evening. We're going to cover a description of the property and a proposal, the inspection results, public consultation review, and the staff recommendation. So property description. For 3936-3942 Old Beverly Road, lot area is 60 hectares or 148 acres. The frontage is 382 meters or 1253 feet. The property zoned Z-1 agriculture. Property description. There's 2 single detached residential buildings with attached garages. Outdoor pool, type 4 insulated barn. Description of the proposal. So we currently have bylaw 3160-20, our dog bylaw, that doesn't allow anybody to be able to operate or continue to operate a kennel unless you have a valid kennel license in the township. The township received an application for a new kennel license for property to provide dog grooming, boarding, and daycare services. And the applicant has requested permission to allow 36 to 50 dogs on the property. Description of the proposal: a type 4 insulated barn, 20 pens, a large bay door, 2-man door, 5 windows, 1 exposed drain, as well as an outdoor exercise yard, 4 outdoor exercise yards, fence enclosure, high, and open Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday to Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So inspections have been completed. So the property was inspected by the Kitchener-Waterloo Stratford Humane Society. So this is the township's pound keeper or external animal control provider, and they've been providing that service since 2020. The dog bylaw, section 9.4, does stipulate that any new kennel license applications, it could be reviewed by a pound keeper. The Humane Society did conduct an inspection of the property. Of the kennel facility, and they found it to be acceptable, and they are recommending that a kennel license be approved. In addition, the Township Building Division has also been out to review the property. So during an inspection related to the building permit process, the Township Building Inspector noted that none of the stalls, kennels, or cages are connected to the floor drains in the barn. The building permit process is running in tandem currently with the proposed kennel license application. And the final determination has not been made on the building permit submission. The public consultation has been taken as well. So public notice was provided within 250 meters of the subject property. At the time of the public meeting beginning this evening, 13 pieces of correspondence have been received. They have been circulated to council in advance of the meeting. All correspondence received have been in favor of granting the kennel license, except for 2 submissions that indicated that they were opposed. So staff, the recommendation from staff, the proposed use of the property at 3936-3942 Old Beverly Road is compatible with adjacent uses and properties, and that a kennel license be approved for the subject property, subject to the following conditions. The owner applicant successfully complete the process of securing applicable building, plumbing, and septic permits from the Township Building Division with the existing farm structure, and commissioning the building in accordance with the approved permits. And second, that the kennel shall be located within the existing barn structure, and that the land immediately adjacent thereto, with a maximum daily occupancy of 40 dogs and overnight accommodation of up to 20 dogs.
Thank you, Ashley. So, now I have Stephanie Suits who'd like to speak. Stephanie?
Courtney Nicole here.
So Stephanie Suits, Stephanie, speaking.
I'm the owner of the property, I'm for that.
Do you,
But I have
I had
nothing
you
to
down,
do
would
with
you like to speak? So you don't want to speak, okay? And Courtney? And please come to the microphone.
I'd like to introduce myself because I'm sure a lot of you have been emailing, but no one has actually met me or seen my face. So my name is Courtney. Me and my future husband are the owners of the kennel. I started with rescue dogs. I fostered them out of my home. And then I had this huge dream of opening a kennel-free dog area, an area where dogs can have 150-acre farms. It's with a huge fenced-in area where dogs can just be dogs. They can be free. They're not locked in pens and cages all day, except at night. And then COVID happened, and I said, I can't do my dream. I have to stay at the hospital where I work. So unfortunately, I stopped everything. The barn was built, and I met this lovely man who changed his life and said, I'll do your dream. And he quit his job to put in the kennel and do this. Yeah, I just want to give a little backstory on us and our story, and our goal and dream is to have the best facility in place and for dogs and owners and everyone to feel comfortable, and yeah, that's us. So cool.
Intro, Adam. First, I'll come to this talk here. I usually talk with dogs nowadays, so my public speaking skills might be a little subpar. But already touched on how we started, and I'm there every day and working with my staff, so I kind of had to vote something here to kind of give you an idea. So we designed Doggy Stay and Play to be a controlled, safe environment that truly builds the experience around dogs. We're a kennel-free facility, meaning dogs are only put away in kennels, and kennels for sleeping and for feeding. We try to minimize the time pups are spending in kennels and allow them the opportunity to utilize our dog exercise area. Our customers want their dogs to be active and free to play as they please. This is not an experience most of our customers provide for their dogs on their own living within the confines of the city. From the moment we open, the dogs are able to roam inside and outside of our fully fenced property. We allow it, while under constant supervision from our amazing staff. We fill up dog pools, toss balls, and so much more, resulting in a pretty special experience for these pups. Dogs leave happy and tired and always look forward to coming back. We have made meaningful relationships with so many of our customers, and doing so through mostly word of mouth. We now have over 700 active customers with over 800 registered dogs. We employ 3 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee in addition to myself. And do everything that we can to create a positive, safe environment, not only for our customers, but also for our employees. In this industry, there are so many facilities that lock dogs up for countless hours with only a few short periods of time for outside play, if at all. These types of facilities treat outside play as an extra and cost customers more money for their dogs to enjoy what should be the norm. Some operate with only a small run for each dog to enjoy outdoors, and they rarely get the ability to socialize with other dogs. We have much feedback from our customers who have also used these other facilities in the past and say they can't imagine sending their dog anyplace else. Like the places I mentioned above, sorry. Our dream is to continue to work towards improving our business, and we hope that one day we can set the industry standard for what dog kennels should be like. We appreciate you taking the time to hear us out, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Cole. Any members of council have any questions? Councilor Tilly.
Yes. So this question actually to the CEO. It's just in regards to, is this anything, of the merit to see that very properly. So is this building that they have it in, it's a barn, correct? Is it a horse barn that you understand?
Through you, Mayor Foxton and Councillor Tilly. There's a portion of the accessory structure that is 100 by 60 that was issued as a farm implement shed. The remainder of the building is constructed without permits. So we're working through that process currently. So it's all been constructed as a farm implement shed, not as a doggy daycare, not as somewhere where the public is admitted. So again, that's something we're working through with the applicant and their consultants.
So I just wanted to clarify, because this is new to me and I'm just trying to understand it. So when you say a farm implement, is that different than what a barn would be built like? That just so I can understand, sorry.
Yeah, so a barn would be something to house animals such as livestock. And that's done through, with OMA, in sort of in conjunction with OMAFRA, it's applicable law. So an implement shed would be something to say that, you know, you have, cash crops, you have your combine and other equipment housed inside the shop. So that was the intent of what the 60 by 100 structure was constructed for. And then again, as explained during COVID, it sort of evolved.
So, sorry, just again, just because of my building background, I'm a little confused and probably because I'm ignorant. Are the two built differently? Because I don't know if you just said they were, and I might have missed that in how it was.
So again, it depends on the type of barn. So yes, a barn can be built differently, depending on what's being housed in it. So typically an implement shed is a pool type structure. So it's like 6 by 6, 8 by 8, whatever, on an on-center that has a footing, or it can be on a strip footing and then constructed that way. The trusses would be similar to a barn, but again, it depends on what's going in there. Pigs produce ammonia and we can't put steel in there. So again, typically those are more concrete. So again, depending on the type of barn, they're constructed differently depending on what they're housing. Again, in this situation, it was an implement shed, so it was designed to be an implement shed. So yes, there's different varying constructions depending on what the construction is. When we start to introduce things that are outside of what would be typically permitted within a barn, such as an implement shed or a livestock facility, then we start to get into other areas of the code in which the construction is vastly different.
So, and so that way this is constructed right now, it would be vastly different for livestock, or like, I'm trying to compare, and I need to be upfront, I'm trying to compare horses or cows to dogs. Like, and I think, you know, obviously dogs are smaller and not quite so big. So that's where I'm just kind of trying to relate it to, if they are similar.
So again, the building code classifies a farm building and talks about livestock specifically. Dogs are not considered livestock. So OMAFRA classifies livestock. Livestock is considered as cows, chickens, alpacas, pigs, and goes on. There's a list from OMAFRA. So unfortunately, fortunately, OMAFRA does not deem dogs as livestock. So that does then pose a different position in the building code for this portion of the structure that is going to be utilized for dogs. And again, that's something that, you know, through the consultants we're working with.
Great, thank you, I appreciate the explanation. If you have more, sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, it's good, thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please, Councillor Williams?
Myself by Councillor Williams, that's for CLK 14-2023 be received and that a kennel license be issued for 3936-3942 Old Beverly Road, subject to the following conditions. 1, the owner applicant successfully complete the process of securing legal building plumbing and septic permit from the township building permit division for the existing barn structure and commission building in accordance with it. And 2, the kennel should be located in existing barn structure and then immediately adjacent there too, for maximum daily occupancy of 40 dogs, overnight accommodation of 20 dogs.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. And it says we have to call for a motion to adjourn. We have not reviewed this. Okay, we don't need a motion to adjourn this as we're going to see this council. We're going back into. Yeah. Do you have a motion for it? Okay. I move a secretary for the adjournment of the committee of the whole. Would you both be with, please? reconvene. So that's it, we can do. Correct.
Will myself, second by Council Jelly, the council adjourned, that council adjourned to resume sitting as the whole.
As. Which is no new city, that's the project, that's it, okay. All those in favor? Harry, thank you. And now we're back to community and social services, 10.1.3. Would any member of council like to pull the item? It's the request for proposal award for engineering services for Grant Water Road. Seeing no comments, could I have the motion, please, Council Chili?
Moved by myself, second by Council Wong, that the committee of the whole recommend the following items be approved and presented in the outline and the staff reports listed in the community service function area. 10.1.3, a report PW 17-2023, request for proposal award ND-2023 C10 RFP EWP 01 engineering services for Grant Waterloo Road construction, reconstruction, and that PW report number 17-2023 be received, and that council approved the award of contract ND 2023 C10 RFP EW01 for engineering services for Grant Waterloo Road reconstruction, the amount of $217,570.21, inclusive of the HSC rebate to Dillon Consulting Limited, and that the project contingency of $17,234.79, inclusive of the HST rebate, be established, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents to facilitation of the completion of this project.
All those in favor? Harry, thank you. Next is governmental services. There's 3 items there. The void boundary review, the proposed noise bylaw, and then the fire department incentives summary. Would anybody like to pull any reports? Council.
I'd like to pull 2 reports, 10.1.8 and 10.1.
Andy, okay. Anyone else? Council Austin.
Yeah, I'd like to pull B as well.
Any other ones? Okay. We'll start with A, council composition board boundaries, Council Wells.
So I was reading through this report and just thinking about this matter of changing the council. And I'm wondering if we're jumping ahead of ourselves. Right now things are working quite well. There's equal representation across all of our rural areas and our urban areas. So I'm wondering if we're creating an issue where there isn't one. And so I just like to open up that discussion. And if we do decide that this isn't going well, I would like to receive amendments, but that'd be my first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the exact opposite of Council Williams on this one. I think the system's not working at all. I think the last election shows that everybody was complaining pretty much except for me. So I was complaining time before that. So if we want to have the actual election, I think if everybody was up for re-election, if we had everybody at large, for example, then we wouldn't have anybody claim. Probably would have, we have 4 people running and one more person with their name that doesn't make much. So I'm concerned about the fact that voter participation is pretty low, a lot of people aren't running, we need to make some changes. And the second problem we have, of course, is that air is growing and growing and growing. Now I have the largest board, and that's not really, it's not really fair for the residents of Ward 1 to have actually less representation because they have a large number of people on that board compared to even Ward 2, for example. So we have to rebalance it somehow or another. So I think we need to do a study And especially before we have all the new subdivisions coming on stream, maybe more people living in Ward 1, a few more living in Ward 2. And nobody new living in Ward 3 or Ward 4, so Ward 1 and 2 are going to continue to grow, so we have to think about how we're going to balance the growth population there.
Any other council, Tilly?
I think there might be a few people moving the 3 and 4.
Councillor Austin?
Well, no, he just said there won't be anybody moving into council role, because if they do that, that's pretty accurate. So I believe that there is definitely a higher representation for the 2.6 electors. Sorry. So basically the numbers, I just rounded up by 1,000, just to make it. It is a higher number, I believe. I think the range, if you look at wards 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4, wards 1 and 2 are the town proper-ish, and then 3 or 4 are the rural areas. You can see that it's within 3% of each other for percentage of the population. And I do believe there's a time coming where this is something that we will definitely have to worry about, maybe possibly considering some of the options. But since it is almost within 50% at this point, rural versus urban, we do need the representation in Ward 3 and 4. That's the main reason why I ran or wanted to be here, was to represent the rural area because I know it's different than I've lived in town. I know how town works. I also know how it works in the country. It's 2 separate areas. You got to think differently because it's a different situation. And I just say to say that anybody can come in and understand that. I don't think that if somebody lived in Ayr and was supposed to be representing they wouldn't have the same understanding and knowledge as a person who does it. And I think it's important to keep that separate for now. I mean, at some point it might be more important when it becomes a higher number. But I think it's important to keep it. And so my personal opinion is we're good where we are. To spend that money. Yeah, I mean, I know it's coming up that we'll have to do it at some point, but we've got a pretty aggressive budget coming up the next year or two, and I think maybe this is something that could be put on the back burner for now, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Councillor Austin?
Madam Mayor. So now I'm gonna split it right down the middle because I see validity on both sides. The problem with councillors at large is you're still same amount of vote. You're not changing the composition of vote, you're just changing the people who are voting. I do believe that when you are in a certain area, like Councillor Tilly and Councillor Wells, living in the area and understand the area, I mean, they understand wards 4 and 3 better than I do. I feel that I understand Ward 2 better than they would, and so on down the line. So I feel that there's a huge benefit of being in the ward and being in touch with your constituents. To Council Bowman's point of the growth in Ayr, the reason I would like to see this being done is that maybe wards 1 and 2 could be shifted to take a little bit of that population away. You know, then again, if Ward 4 booms or Ward 3 booms, their population will go up. So as Councillor Tilly said, the population is not hugely different, and you're still representing within a percentage. If it was dramatic, like 5,000 to 2,000, well, then I can understand that you might want more representation in the population of 5,000 to 2,000. But we're not too bad right now. But I think that wards 2 and 3 need small alignment to balance the population.
If I may now, I have been speaking to a few developers, and it looks like a lot of big development is going to be happening in 3 and 4. Quite huge in the next little while should things move forward. And so if we did the review, it's just a review, and we can discuss it at the review. I don't think there's any harm done doing the review. We will all have our opinions. I've never been in favor of council segregation because I don't want one area to represent the whole township. I like the diversity. I would love to get a farmer on council. Well, that's unless you guys want to support me. But the review wouldn't hurt anything. We can all give our opinions and set views from staff and take those concerns back. But it's just review. But I see no harm in putting it on either, because I think you're going to see major change in the next 2 years. And what we do today may not be what is needed in 2 years. Any comments, CEO McNeil? I knew you wanted to speak.
No, Madam Mayor, I have no comments.
Good answer. Councilor Williams.
So I stand by that. I'm not convinced that this is the right thing to do right now. But if we go ahead with this, the one thing that I don't see explicitly outlined in this report yet, and it's something that we need to also consider, is one, just the distribution of taxes across the current wards. So I think that that is a factor that needs to also go into whatever we decide we want to redistribute things. And also what would be most cost effective for residents. And I think right now, the way we have it is a very cost effective approach for residents. And I hate to increase the budget by hundreds of thousands just on a basis of this report, particularly since we're right now in the middle of a lot of pressure.
Any other comments? So we will now have the motion for this one, which is kind of separate. Okay, and it's kind of, we have the motion, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Tilly, that CLK report 15-2023 be received. And that staff be directed to undertake a request for proposal to retain an independent consultant to undertake a council composition and ward boundary review in 2024.
All those in favor? Those opposed? The vote is failed. Thank you. Next one would be the noise bylaw, discussion Councilor Williams and Councilor Ross.
So I'm looking particularly at Schedule 8. That's page 206 in the PDF, and it's marked up. And my comments are related to items 8, 9, and 11. So number 8 is items 4, 5, 6, and 7 at 21 hours to 7. And number 8 is from residential property renovations that need to end at 1900 hours. I have two, okay, so I was just wondering why 1900 hours instead of 21 hours, 2100 hours, especially since a lot of people come home late, and then it'd be almost impossible for them to do any kind of improvements in the evenings.
Okay, Councilor.
Sorry, I understand where you say that, but I see 2100 hours, and you're talking about 8, 9, so my apologies. That's not residential stuff though.
Is that non-residential? Am I misunderstanding?
Staff for clarification, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, that's actually other than residential, so that would be your commercial and your industrial.
Okay. All right.
Any other ones?
Yes, number 9, I totally didn't get it, what the proposal was, because everything is so scratched out. I didn't know what we were proposing.
Go ahead.
So then my interpretation is it's 0 hours till 7 a.m. is no work, and then the midnight to that is like 9. Yeah, 9.
I didn't understand.
That is off for my understanding as well too. Yeah. But look at the red, midnight till 9, And, oh, yeah, there's a regard that. So midnight to 9, and then it's 1700 is midnight, 7 o'clock.
Okay, just a minute, there was an addendum where it was amended, and, well, could you please read it?
Sorry, so item 9 of the Schedule A was residential and property renovations was amended because there's actually a, it's typed in the original version that went out. So it actually should read 2100 hours, one day to 700 hours, the next day, 900 on Sunday. Plus it was amended, like, how it was written previously, yes.
Any questions, comments?
I have one more for item 11, that's the last one, sorry. And that one's, it says from 21 hours to 700 hours the next day, an operation of a snow blower. And I was wondering if that should be actually 600 hours, because especially if you're going out and shift work or something like that, you need your driver driving before you leave or keep your car out. 700 hours.
Go ahead. And this one was also corrected as well, the amendment. Or actually staff are recommending it be removed.
Oh. Nice. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Councilor.
Okay, so. I should have you here, starting with. Item number 2. That being changed in or? No. All right, so noise or sound or noise created by any radio, phonograph, public address system, sound equipment, loudspeaker, music instrument, or other sound producing equipment at all times. So are you saying, is this saying that music at all times? You can't have above what we would, I think we call normal listening. I mean, I'm half deaf, so I listen to it louder than, I can hear music coming out of a bar in Buffalo from our house. Her ears, her ears are immaculate, but what I'm saying is that everybody has a sensitivity level. Some people, hearing conversations on the house beside them is too loud. So how, like, how's that fitting in, that music at all? And then it should be after a certain time, which I would call 11 o'clock at night. You have to keep it down, like I believe it always has been. And then the other part of number 2 is what do you do when you have like the air pipe band that's at the park practicing? Can they not practice because they can't make music at all times? Noise louder than like. Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, there's an exemption component for activity that occurs within our park facilities where we've issued or sanctioned the activity. So we sponsor the Wednesday night concerts in Centennial Park from the May through September time period. And so noise emitted with those functions would be permitted and would be exempted from the noise bylaw.
Okay, that's fine if they're functions, but what if somebody's practicing?
So I wanted to answer to that specific aspect because it was 2 different things that you raised. So any noise emitting from a park where we've done a permission or a permitting, then it's exempt under the bylaw because we've already dictated that it's appropriate and we put context of hours of when it can occur. As it relates to the general statement of noise, so on a residential lot, just as an example, yes, we've tried to speak to amplified noise, however that may be. Today, it is also prohibited at any point in time where it causes a nuisance or an inconvenience to an adjacent property owner. As we tried to identify in the staff report, it's a context of time. So having your music on the back patio as you're preparing your lunch at say 11:30 or 12 noon is different than that same amount of noise at 11:30 or midnight later in the day. The volume could be the same, but it's the context of time. And so if there's a complaint then the bylaw enforcement officer attends. And they use judgment. And they have to be, because the court on challenge will ask them, what was your means and method to determine whether or not it was truly a nuisance factor? And so noise unto itself is not the issue. It's time of day. It's also whether or not I can carry on, as an example, activity in my adjacent property without having to either stop my conversation because the person next to me cannot communicate and I can hear, and or I have to shout to overcome that extra noise to have an intelligent conversation with somebody. And that's where it's a judgment call. I can tell you from experience watching the bylaw enforcement personnel, they start listening the moment they park the car and make the approach to the residents. If it's in the backyard and they can hear it clearly at the curb where they park, that starts to get your antenna up. And then, of course, they're going back to where the source is and how loud it is, hour of day, and those all become factors. In most cases, if it's during a reasonable period of the day period, they'll try and employ the good neighbor policy. You turn your volume down a little bit if it's carrying too far into the adjacent property. At 10 or 11 o'clock at night, when you've got the same issue, it's turn the amplified music off.
Okay, well, that's fine. However, that's just assuming that the time of the day is a definition flat across the board of everybody. For example, you have neighbors that take a nap at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you're barbecuing outside with the music on. They call bylaw because they want to have a nap. They can't have a nap because they hear music. Like when we talk about like normal procedure and procedures for life, we're not considering, you know, infants that sleep. We're not considering seniors that sleep a certain time of the day. That's why I think that if it's left like this, it's going to be a headache for bylaw because they're going to get more calls over noise related issues. Someone's going to be upset because they want a nap and they can't. There's noise. That's why I think there should be a time limit set on it, so that bylaw, so they know that the bylaws, the music is supposed to be down, or the conversations, or whatever the issue may be. That's just what I think on number 2. So the other thing that kind of, I'm wondering if it contradicts number 2, is number 6. It says all selling or advertising by shouting or outcry or amplified sound, 2,100 hours one day to 700 hours the next day. If I'm amplified selling music, how does that differ from number 2?
So the difference is item 6 is basically speaking about a commercial type operation versus number 2, which generally is speaking to a residential setting in a neighborhood.
Okay, should we have the word commercial in that number 6 or?
Selling or I'm advertising commercial activity. Because it implies commerce.
Okay, so if you have somebody with political views that are advertising their opinion, they can do that till 2,100, but you can't listen to music.
It would be in the context of the entire sentence and not focus on a singular word in the sentence.
Selling or advertising by shouting or outcry or amplified sound.
In the sum of all of the words. If council wishes to get a definition for each term, that can occur. You would have to recraft the bylaw to provide a definition as to selling or advertising is deemed to be a commercial practice.
Yeah, that's fine, but I have trouble seeing how it's okay to do all that's advertised in number 6, yet At all times, you have to keep the noise and music down. In your own home.
Generally speaking, we're talking majority when we're looking at two being an outside situation. I mean, yes, you can have that, like, sound like you've got your windows open and it carries into an adjacent property. But for the most part, our complaints have been in and around the pool structure, back deck or patio type. For the most part, it's been an outdoor related noise and it carrying on to one or more adjacent neighborhood residential properties.
Understood. I understand that. I don't agree that number 2 is drafted properly. That's my opinion. I'd like to have a timeline on there where music at a certain level is acceptable, which might not be acceptable to your neighbor, but there's a hard stop at 9, 10, or 11 o'clock at that level. You still listen to music, but you have to turn it down.
So, Madam Mayor, we are aware of other municipal jurisdictions that do establish DBA ratings for noise. So we would have to acquire the appropriate equipment to measure noise. Staff would have to be trained, and then there's the continual recertification of that instrument, because if we go before the courts, the first thing they're going to talk about is your maintenance record of that system, so that it's accurately accounting for whatever the noise level is. We do not today have in our possession appropriate sound meter, nor have we trained our staff to read a sound meter. And then the question becomes, during the course of the day, looking over a period of 24 hours, what is an acceptable level, just for sake of argument, between 7 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night? If those are the bookmark time periods, and then what is an acceptable noise level, the overnight time period? If council wishes to go that far, then we would be going well beyond section 2. We would be putting DBA levels then for a whole host of different
I don't think we need to go down DBA levels. We need to craft this that makes common sense. And it doesn't make any common sense to me when I read noise made or created by a radio, phonograph, public address system, sound equipment, loudspeaker, musical instrument, or other sound producing equipment at all times. To me, I read, if my neighbor doesn't like me and they hear my radio, they're gonna call bylaw. And bylaw's gonna come out and bylaw's gonna say, no, I don't think it's loud enough. Goodbye. That's a wasted call. And then you have another instance where another neighbor that lives too close to another neighbor, whose kids were screaming the day before, they've got music playing. They're gonna call bylaw and say, his music's too loud. Bylaw's gonna come out and say, I don't think it's too loud, he's gonna leave. So to me, that's a waste of staff's time. I think we need clear definitions on what does that mean, because all it says is noise made or created by any radio, phonograph, public address system, sound equipment, loudspeaker, musical instrument, or other sound producing equipment at all times. That's like saying you can't cut your grass at all times.
And I'm going to disagree. I think the way it is right now, a bylaw is going to be called out 50,000 things, regardless of what anything says in the bylaw. People have a complaint, they're going to raise it, such as the barking dog and everything else. And that's, bylaw knows that. They go out to try and create sort of peace in the community through bylaws. And if, I think, I liked your analogy, C.L. McNeil, where you said the bylaw comes up to a place and he hears it at the curb and the radio whatever's in the back. And so he makes a judgment call. Bylaw is judgment. You cannot put hard numbers on it, because a decimal level for someone else is either too loud or too soft for the next person. And if it's a hard line, I think we have to try to, I think bylaw, 90% of bylaw is common sense. By the bylaw.
I haven't seen a single police officer with a DBA machine device in his hand when he comes for a noise call and say, yeah, that's a ticket, or turn your music down. They make a judgment call. But they make a judgment call when it's late at night. They don't, like, I would hate somebody to waste the time of the bylaw officer when he has probably other things he should be doing. Simply because of disputes in the neighborhood over, I don't want to listen to that kind of music. He's got that headbanging music on, or she has that classical music. I just think that we need to be a little bit more accurate with our wording. And I don't think we have to need to meet or DVAs or anything like that. We need to be a little bit more clear on timing and stuff, because right now, it just, to me, it's gonna prevent the problem at all times. If I hear any noise, I call my law.
Please don't do it by others, but go ahead.
So if I can give maybe a possible scenario where it makes sense to have it at this time, is that an inconsiderate person decides to play that music you don't like, and it's extremely loud, and it happens to be a younger person who enjoys that volume high and likes to enjoy that music that not everybody enjoys, like the Oliver. So that at least it says all times that bylaw isn't told, they're not handcuffed to say, I can't say anything at 1 o'clock in the afternoon while those teenagers rocking out and his parents are gone, or her parents are gone. And at least so that's where I kind of would, differ with that. Other than that, it does make sense. The 11 o'clock curfew, shut it down, it's getting too loud. But at least if somebody was doing that, and I was trying to have some fun with my family and kids in the backyard, and somebody's just being outrageous, I'd like that opportunity to not be handcuffed. So that's my small opinion on that.
Why did we change the 11 o'clock? Wasn't there an 11 o'clock sort of end time? When you could go to council and ask for exemptions?
That's a different context, getting the exemptions. Generally speaking, noise, that was a nuisance under the old bylaw, or under the existing bylaw, applies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no time period. What we did restrict was construction activity. It had specified opening and closing time periods. Under the draft bylaw that's in front of the council with the amendments that were shown in today's addendum, we have put staggered hours that are different than what was in the existing bylaw.
Thank you. Is there any more questions or comments? Any more questions or comments?
No,
Okay, can I have a motion, please, Councilor Wells?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Willoughby, that bylaw report 07-2020 be received, and that council enact bylaw number 3421-23, being a bylaw to prohibit and regulate noise with the township of North Dumfries, as amended and repeal bylaw number 2609-14, and that staff be directed to prepare short form wording and set fines to be submitted to the Ministry of Attorney General for.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Receiving of the firefighters report, Councilor Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Osner, that FD report 08-2023 be received for the purposes of information.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Tilly, we have the motion to adjourn from committee of the whole and return to council.
We need to change something yet?
No, we're adjourning. We have the motion. That's something.
Sorry, throwing things in.
Number 10. Robinson 10.
And yeah, no. Nothing. Unless we're moving on, and I've already done it. That's a fun one there.
You got it? Okay, here it is, Councilor Tilly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By myself, second by Council Roman, the committee of the whole is hereby adjourned and the council meeting called back to order.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Consent agenda. Is Councillor, Bloom, the consent agenda, please. Which is 11.1. Yes, please.
Do I need to strike out,
Yes, I assume that we will council, we scratch out, report number 15/2023.
Because it's.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tilly, that council adopt resolutions as presented by committee of the whole dated July 10, 2023. First, report number FIN-16-2023, financial updates June 30, 2023. Two, report number PD-30-2023, discussion of an interim control bylaw and accurate operations. Three, report number PD-29-2023, discussion paper, draft provincial planning statement 2023. Four, report number PW-17-2023, request for proposal award ND-2023-C10-RFP-EPW01, engineering services for Grant Water Road construction. Five, report number bylaw -07-2023, follow-up report proposed noise bylaw. And six, report number FD-08-2023, fire department incident summary, response summary for June 2023.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And next we have the adoption of the minutes, Council Nolan, please.
Myself, Council Williams, the council for the following minutes, special council meeting minutes dated June 12, 2023, regular council meeting minutes June 19, 2023, and public planning meetings minutes dated June 2023.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And next we have the following holdings, please, Councillor Tilly.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Williams, the council received purposes of information the following minutes for town hall meeting dated June 15, 2023.
All those in favor? It's carried, thank you. Item for discussions, correspondence received from Mayor Creelan, Town of Monterey, regarding a request to meet with Minister Mulrooney at AMO regarding the automatic speed enforcement being turned down. Anybody got any comments or anything?
Yeah.
It's just received the information. I think he got a lot of requests, the minister, no, I think she got a lot of requests, so they turned down, John Fields. So it's just information. Automatic speed enforcement in the city, along here, in a lot of municipalities, even Region is expanding the automatic speed enforcement. So they're doing another 16 cameras. And it's only in school zones right now. A little bit of a backlash, you should see the emails against it, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So if no one has any comments, we'll just receive the motion, Councilor Nolan.
Myself, Councilor Oxner, the correspondence received from Mayor Creelan, Town of Monterey, regarding request to meet with the Minister Mulrooney at AMO regarding automated speed enforcement be turned down previously.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Anybody want to bring anything forward with communications? Absolutely.
14.1.1.
Okay, anybody else? Councilor Austin.
14.1.2. resolution.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we start with Councilor Morris.
All right, I was just hoping that council could also back up the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury on this. So for those who might not know, the right to repair movement is becoming quite the big deal in the agricultural sector, just because a lot of the newer equipment is being made, and the only people who, and they basically have black box a lot of the things that farmers have traditionally been able to fix themselves. And so this is causing huge delays and backlogs when it comes to harvesting and planting crops, because inevitably equipment will break down, and then the farmer has to sit there and wait until an approved person from the manufacturer comes along and actually fixes their equipment. So this right to repair movement is really to address some of these things and allow farmers to more seamlessly be able to actually do their work.
Councillor Timmy.
Wasn't that put through by MP, Brian May? Wasn't he the one that got that institution started? Like, I'm pretty sure that's. That's not it now. No, not that. You want us to follow up with that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just endorse their endorsements.
So directed to staff. CEO McNeely.
Actually, Madam Mayor, today you could endorse the resolution of the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, and the position taken in the June 9th, 2023 correspondence related to the right to repair.
So anybody opposed to this? Seeing nobody opposed, let's so do so then, please. Do we need a motion?
Yes.
We need a motion. While we're waiting for actually to do motion, I'm going to turn to Councillor Austin to talk about the opioid crisis on Montpelier Township.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wondered if everyone would be in agreement to support the town of Port Francis. With the opioid crisis being as overwhelming as it is, I think it needs to stay as much in the forefront as possible. Supporting communities that are passionate enough and care enough to keep that voice being heard of the opioid crisis everywhere.
Any comments? So do we want to again endorse the motion? And Ms. Sage, you'll have to do that as well. So for correspondence, we are going to try and pass 14.1.3, 14.1.4, 14.1.5 is specific for information. We've 14.1.1 and 14.1.2. So Councillor Austin will be elimination 14.1.1 and 14.1.2. Would you do that motion, please? You draw this, you just remove it.
Move on to outside the account for children and following be received for the purposes of information. 14.1.3 correspondence received from the county of Brant regarding notice of adoption of county of Brant efficient plan. 14.1.4 correspondence received from Mayor Steele, township of both Westwich, and chair of technical regarding recycled asphalt in municipal infrastructure, as well as the use of aggregate site and storage processing. And 14.1.5 resolution received from the municipality and regarding vacant building efficient positions.
All those in favor? That's carried.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rowland, that council endorse the resolution received from the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury regarding the right to repair movement.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Councillor Austin, go ahead.
Move by myself, second by Councillor Tilly, that council endorse the resolution received from Montville Township regarding the opioid crisis.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Next, we have Councillor Williams doing the, how did you find the meeting? We haven't had minutes on this meetings for years.
This is like the third meeting minutes have been returned.
But how did you find them?
I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, that's good.
It's been great and they've been happy to have council, a member of the council there and so it's been really good. I'm learning lots and it's been very valuable. I'm happy to be part of it. I'm very pleased with this.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the number of people, a lot of different people that crowd, and it's really great. Okay, the motion, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Holman, that council receive for the purpose of information the following items: North Dumfries Community Health Center Program Advisory Committee meeting minutes.
All those in favor? Carries, thank you. Now we are on to Councilor Tilly. We shall put that out of the minutes.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Williams, the council received the purpose of information in the following items: regional council minutes dated May 24, 2023, Grand River Conservation Authority minutes dated May 26, 2023, Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes dated May 25th, 2023.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Is there any other business? No, seeing none, may I have a council's reports? Seeing none, we're at first and second reading of the bylaw, please, Councilor Williams.
On myself and the council officer, the following bylaw be taken as read a first and second time, bylaw number 3421-23. The bylaw to prohibit and regulate noise within the town of Dumfries as amended and repealed bylaw number 2.
We want to change the second, Councilor Austin, we had not second it because he voted against it. So Councilor Williams, will you second that, please? Thank you.
Myself and Councilor Jones. Following bylaw be taken read the first, second time by number 3421-23 being bylaw to prohibit and regulate noise within the town of Dumfries amended and repealed by number 269.
All those in favor? Very, thank you. And Councilor Austin does not want to move this. Did he ask Councilor to move this? Councilor to move the. Yeah, Councilor to move.
Yeah. Very good. There. It's an implication. Move on myself, second by Councilor Bowman. The following bylaw be taken as read a third and finally passed. Bylaw number 3421-2023. 23, being a bylaw to prohibit and regulate noise within the township of North Dumfries as amended and to repeal bylaw number 2609-14.
All those in favor? And opposed? Thank you. And we have the confirmatory bylaw, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Tilly, that bylaw number 3422-23 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on July 10, 2023, be read first, second, third time, and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, and the adjournment, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Williams, that whereas party council was completed at 9:18 p.m. and be it resolved that the meeting adjourns and meets again on Monday, July 17th at 6 p.m. for a special council meeting.
All those in favor? It's carried, thank you.